Okay, good afternoon, everyone. This is the council meeting for Tuesday, February 10th, 2026. This meeting is being recorded live and is streaming on the District of Summerland YouTube channel. All representations to council, written or verbal, will form part of the public record and will be available to the public for viewing electronically or as a written record. Corporate Officer, do we have any late items? None? Okay, can I get an approval of today's agenda? Council Betts, Councillor Peak, all in favor? Great, thank you. Moving on to the consent agenda. Council, is there anything that you'd like to remove from the consent agenda? Councillor Betts?
I'd like to remove item 4.5, the 2025 Route 30 ridership numbers.
Okay, so that will go down to section 11. Okay, anything else? Nope, seeing none, can I get an approval of our consent agenda, please? Councillor Betts, Councillor Peak, all in favor? Great, thank you. Okay, moving on to the mayor's report. Our mayor is currently away right now, so we don't have a mayor's report tonight. And we'll move on to our CAO's report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Given the drought we entered winter with, we have been regularly monitoring precipitation and snowfall with data posted on our website. Currently, we're seeing 81% of the historic average for Headwaters area and 75% for Eisentalk Lake, but it's still too early in the season to predict where things will land. In collaboration with the Ministry of Water, Land and Resource Stewardship, the Regional District of Okanagan-Similkameen and the Okanagan Nation Alliance, the District of Summerland has installed a supplemental water line to Trout Creek from the emergency wells located at the Summerland Rodeo grounds. This new infrastructure will help support emergency environmental flows for Trout Creek in the event of water scarcity. We are proud of this project as it was done quickly and in collaboration with multiple governments and under the supervision of environmental professionals. As the irrigation season approaches, things will become clearer, and in the meantime, we will keep the public aware of the changing situation. We are hiring summer student positions for both Works and Infrastructure and Parks departments. These positions are a great opportunity for young people to try out the fun and rewarding work in the district while contributing to the maintenance and upkeep of the community, including our beautiful park system. You can check out information on our website for more details on that. Speaking of parks, special thanks to Council for coming out to celebrate the official start to construction for the Peach Orchard Playground yesterday. Over the next few weeks, the old playground will be removed, followed by installation of the new equipment, and the new playground, expected to open mid-April, will feature a treehouse for kids 5 to 12, a sandcastle junior play structure for ages 2 to 12, a zip line, musical instruments, sensory panels, and a variety of climber slides and balance equipment. Finally, thanks to the generous support from the Kinsmen, we will be offering free skating and free swimming on Family Day weekend. Swimming is offered on the 14th from 2 to 6:30 p.m. and skating on the 15th from 5:15 to 7 p.m. The new Junior B Hockey Society will also be there to help drive awareness of their project to launch a community-owned team in Summerland. There will be a bouncy castle, inflatable axe throwing, and other kid-friendly activities on the mezzanine level in the arena. And a booth will be set up with information about the team in case you would like to learn more about how to get involved. There will also be a ballot box for the public to provide their ideas for the team name, which they hope to shortlist by the end of the week. That's my report.
Council, any questions for our CAO? No? Okay, and I just wanted to mention that Mayor Holmes has joined us online now. Great, okay, so moving along to delegations. Today we have Jeff and Melissa Taylor from the Summerland Minor Baseball Association. So just come on up to the podium and make sure you turn on your microphone.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council, and thank you for your time today. My name is Jeff Taylor. I'm here on behalf of the Summerland Minor Baseball Association. I got limited time, so I'm going to move through my presentation relatively quickly. So taking you back to what the field looked like a little over a year ago, we had surface was in poor condition. We had an uneven outfield, lack of seating. Our dugouts were undersized. Our outfield was quite uneven. We had inadequate storage, no fencing, undersized backstop, among other things. Starting in November 2024, we launched our official campaign to get this Field 96 built. It included a bunch of work. We held events at Shaughnessy's Cove. We sold corn. We collected bottles. We sold T-shirts. We sold concession. We visited the Kinsmen. We went to the Barker Invitational Golf Tournament. We went to the Rotary Club. We've kind of been everywhere. You've seen us a few times. Field 96 is trending. We see these T-shirts all over town. We see them on television when they're profiled at Blue Jays games or Mariners games, as is the case in the center photo there. We see them through our neighboring communities in Penticton, top right, and we see them throughout town. We have a lot of people contributing to this project. I don't want anybody to think this is a project that is just me or just Melissa. We have a number of people behind the scenes, including our board, and also a lot of credit to the city staff who've been very supportive and helpful along the way in getting us to the point where we are. So what did we do? We tackled the outfield, we stripped it, we tilled it, we graded it, we filled it, we de-rocked it, which was a number of fun evenings for me, walking around with a bucket, getting rid of the rocks. We sloped it properly for proper drainage, we hydroseeded it, and we installed a warning track. Our dugouts, we tore off the roof, we extended the pads by another 8 feet. We rebuilt the roofs and we reconfigured all of the fencing. So we have these nice large dugouts now. Our washroom needed a facelift. We recladded the outside with some donated cedar siding. That's a volunteer crew up there, Red Stag Construction, who showed up to give us a hand. A lot of this was volunteer work. Almost all of it was volunteer work. The interior of the washrooms, we gave a facelift. We painted. We put in new fixtures. We built a batting cage. We did repurpose the frame from Powell Beach Park. The remainder we built ourselves. We have a turf surface and it's fenced and it has power to it. We redid the infield. We stripped it entirely. We rebuilt the infield properly for both the U15 and U18 age groups, graded, surveyed, irrigated, all the rest of it. We have a proper mound now that accommodates both age groups as well. Fencing was a big expense for us. We fenced the entire field. Those foul poles that you'll notice there, if you notice back on one of my earlier slides, that blue remnant sign that was up from the old facilities, we repurposed those. I dragged them up to the sandblaster. So we have these nice, beautiful yellow foul poles now. The third one was used for a flagpole, which will be raising our flag at our opening on April 18th. We are currently trenching for electrical. This has proven to be a bit challenging, but we're getting close. We should have this wrapped up by the end of the week. We have a new kiosk going in near the parking near the parking lot. This was a big portion of the District of Summerland's previous funding. Recall the district had donated or contributed $185,000 to the project. We have some remaining tasks to do before we open on April 18th. We've got our electrical to finalize. We've got some flashing to do on the washroom. We've got a bunch of things that we need to paint, and we've sort of got some grading, seating, and sort of general cleanup that we're working on. We have a new C-can that we've installed. We've ordered our scoreboard. Our scoreboard will be here and it will be installed in time for opening day. And as you can see, just that bottom right there, we just sort of have some general cleanup, the mess that we made while we fix the remainder of the field. Here's a quick financial overview. To date, we've raised about $520,000. You can see a few our different sources there where the money came from. We estimate we have about $150,000 worth of in-kind contributions. It's probably more than that if we added it all up. And this is what we're here to talk about today, is this Phase 2 stadium lighting. So what's next? The Blue Jays invited us to reapply for their Field of Dreams grant once again, this time for stadium lighting. When they reached out, they specifically commented on the high degree of support that we've had from the district and our proven ability to get the job done. They've said they've never seen a field built so fast. We're here today to inquire about matching funds from the district. We understand this has to be a good decision for the community, not just for Summerland minor baseball. On one hand, it's obviously an incredible opportunity to double our money. The district's funding would be contingent upon us being successful with the Jays, so no grant, no money. That said, we also appreciate there are competing demands for limited funds. However, I'll leave you with a few points. The difference between us and others is that, number one, we're bringing the potential of matching funds from outside sources. Number two, our project has garnered considerable community support, as evidenced by the in-kind support that we've received to date. Number three, we've made local and national news, and Summerland was profiled on a nationally televised Blue Jays game. Number four, a recent Globe and Mail survey saw Summerland place 80th among 454 small communities, moving up 171 spots from the 2025 survey. When I contacted those who conducted the survey, the biggest reason for our movement up was that they pointed to was our safety improvements and our amenities improvements. We've also taken on, number five, we've also taken on most of the work ourselves. We've had Lori and her staff help us out as much as they can. We've tried to ease the burden on district staff. And lastly, we've made the most of our funds. We've entirely rebuilt in a field and associated amenities for about $500,000. For comparison, it's hard to find comparisons, but Salmon Arm is building a new 3/4 size turf soccer field, and they're currently running at about $1.4 million just for the field, and that's on a brand new flat surface. I know the engineer involved in Summerland, so I have a little bit of in Salmon Arm, so I have a bit of inside scoop on that project. With that, my time is up.
Great presentation, very concise. Council, do you have any questions at all? Go ahead, Councillor Peak.
I will have a question, but I have to say I'm just astounded at what's been accomplished. Kudos to all the parents and the businesses involved. The amount of in-kind work you had done was just terrific. To have the highlighting that you've done over the time you've been doing it is absolutely amazing. So I just congratulate on that. I'm really concerned for us trying to support more funding at this point. So I do have some difficulty in that in terms of our budget. But I really want to acknowledge that what you've done is kind of astounding in the short time you've done it.
Well, thank you for that, Councillor Peak. And I would just say, you know, we're not here to beg or to ask. We're here to discuss, and we recognize that we're all dealing with limited resources, and you know, we're all members of this community, and we want to make good decisions for the community as well. It is a tremendous opportunity, but it's one that we need to consider.
Go ahead, Councillor Beth.
Thanks for the presentation there today. My question actually was, I'm just trying to remember from the previous budget line items, the lighting, because some of the work has been done. So is the lighting kind of final cost estimate $400,000 at this time, or has that changed?
No, the cost estimate for the lights comes in at around $375. The additional 50 is what we're budgeting for things like geotech support, trenching, and conduit installation. But the actual light standards and lights themselves delivered to the field, they'll just bring them and drop them off for you, is about $375,000. And we have a hard quote on that. We were dealing with 3 different suppliers. The one that we settled on is called NetX. They're a Canadian supplier. When everybody else was hit with tariffs, they weren't, so their prices stayed the same. Everybody else's prices kind of jumped. And all that said, I know the prices are crazy. Like it's crazy for stadium lighting that it's almost $500,000, but unfortunately, that is the price.
Right. Can I have a follow-up? Yep. Just to follow up to that. So, the cost of everything. And I think that's the difficulty that we face at the table, and the pushback that we get from our community is that not simple, but infrastructure renewal has accelerated and cost beyond what I think people understand our average CPI indexing has done. And so what you really see it on large scale projects, that's when you see that the costs are not 2.1%. And that's where people challenge council on, for example, our general budget and tax increases. Why is it so much higher? Well, there's reasons, and lights cost more than they used to, so do pipes. But my question is, if this doesn't come together and we have to park it for another year and keep trying again, but if it doesn't, what's the reality for the players? Are there limitations? Or are
Yeah, the way that we tried to organize this project was, we wanted to do all of this work in the off season. We didn't want to have the kids sit out a season, especially our U15, U18 players. Those are our at-risk kids. Those are the kids we want to retain. So we parsed it into these two phases because we thought we could comfortably get the field back to playing by April. We're going to make it. We're just going to make it. But we didn't want to take on the lighting aspect. A, we didn't have the money, and B, it was just going to be a 2-year project. It wasn't going to work. So if we don't get funding this round, we're going to pursue the Jays. We will be back here talking to you guys during your regular budgeting cycle for sure. It's unfortunately that this Jays thing falls outside of your budgeting cycle. I guess not everybody knows to coordinate their grant applications with municipal budgeting cycles, but it would have been helpful. But as far as implications to the players, the field's going to be ready. They're going to play. The lights they extend the season, so they extend us into October. They allow us to start earlier in April, and then they extend the playing time during the day, so we can have our Friday night lights games, and where we can play, later in the summer in August, we can be playing at 8 o'clock at night and not shut down. So it extends the duration of the days, and it extends the duration of the playing season. Our enrollment is way up. We think we're going to have probably a 25-30% increase in enrollment. We're probably going to have 2 U18 teams for the first time ever in Summerland. So the interest is there. We'll accommodate the kids, but the lighting experience would have to come at a later date.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
I just have a quick question with regards to the grant. So you can apply through the Jays up to 200,000. Is that correct?
We're asking them for 250.
Oh, you're asking for 250.
We're asking you for 2.
Okay, I see. But what they decide to give you is not contingent on what we.
It's not, and the way that we're writing the grant is that we're letting them know that we're making the application to the district for matching funds up to $200,000. We're asking them for 250 to cover the additional. We think we're going to be 450. It's probably going to be a bit more than that. Like, as you mentioned, I'm an engineer. We're rebidding projects every 3 months now because prices are changing that quickly. So, just giving ourselves a bit of contingency and breathing room, that's sort of the derivation of the funds. The Jays don't have a limit per se. Sorry, I've been corrected. They do have a limit. It's 250.
And is this phase 2, is this part of your original phase 1? Like, did they give you preference because they already approved phase 1 and they know you're continuing? Are they related or separate?
I think they give us preference because we're proven. We've proven that we can get it done. We've proven that we've got good local partners, and we've proven that we've got a good relationship with the district. You happy with that? Yeah. Okay. They did comment to us that there's oftentimes, maybe not often, but there's times where they issue money to community organizations to go say, okay, yeah, no, go build your field, and then nobody knows what to do. It's like the dog that caught the car. They don't know what to do at that point. So they did like the fact that we were, with the money in hand, we were digging holes right away.
Cool, okay. Seeing no further questions then, this is coming up later in our, sorry, go ahead, Councillor Barkle.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was just wondering, some work has been done for the electrical groundwork. Would that work be sort of, I won't say wasted, but left unused if you're not successful in getting the additional funding for the lighting?
That's a good question. The field had very little. It had one 15 amp service to it, which was to the washroom. So we're utilizing that 15 amp service to provide ourselves some LED lighting in our CCAN and a few things. But where the main kiosk is going to live near the parking lot. From there, we're providing power to Field 3. We're powering the scoreboard. We're powering the batting cage and a few other things. So it's certainly not wasted at all. It provides a basis that we can build on. You know, we can have food trucks down at the field now, for example, during light up and other things. So that's a benefit. So I don't think it's wasted effort at all. The service didn't exist. That 115 amp service, like nobody really knows where it comes from or where it goes to and how long it's good for. So I think improving the infrastructure of the park is a worthwhile investment.
Thank you, Deputy Chair. Excuse me. So you'd require another box to do a new service for this lighting?
No, we would feed it from the kiosk. We're bringing in, I'm not an electrician, but it's 3-phase power from Snow Avenue. It's trenching across Field 3. It sets up that kiosk then sets up right near the parking lot. And from there, we have power to pull from. So we would pull the power from there for the lights.
I'm going to ask this question, even though it doesn't, I'll just ask the question. I don't know who would answer it. So if we went for the lighting that you need for the field, is there a large increase in costs to this particular recreation?
Like operating costs?
Yeah, I'm thinking about electrical primarily.
Yeah, it's pretty minimal because they're LED lights. And they're only on for when they're physically turned on, they're turned off. So they're turned on at the start of a game, they're on for a couple hours, then they're turned off. So they're not running continuously, and they're pretty high efficiency. I don't have an exact number for you, but the manufacturer has told us it's relatively minimal in terms of the power draw.
Yeah. If you were to receive some base support from the municipality, that gives you an opportunity to go in on this draw for money. Do they give it to you in the year you ask for it? Or does this go to the next season? Yeah, good question. The award last year came in April or May. It's April. And so, but that's a good question around the expenditure. The money wouldn't actually be expended probably until the fall of 2026. So they would award us in April. We do all of our work, getting all our contracts lined up and all of that kind of stuff, making sure we have all of our funding as well. And then we wouldn't hit the ground until the season was over. So it would be sort of September again that we would be back out there. 2027.
2026.
2026.
But I'll just to add to that, when they give us the money, we have a year to use the funds. So if it made sense from the district's perspective to do some expenditures for 2026 and some for 2027, that would work, and we could schedule the lighting for like spring next year or something like that. So if it was better to waffle over 2 years, we could make that work within the Jays grant.
We also worked with the manufacturer, the supplier, on sort of a 2-phase approach from them as well. And one is sort of the installation of the posts. This kind of breaks it 50-50-ish. And then the other is actually the supply and installation of the lights themselves. They just drop them onto the posts. We've been reluctant to make that kind of an arrangement just because we don't want to have posts sitting up there and as like a big white elephant for the community. So we wouldn't do something like that unless we had some guarantees that we could fund that second part and put lights on posts. Be a little embarrassing to have a field with 65-foot posts and people up there with flashlights.
Thank you very much for giving me a little more clarity. Appreciate it.
Okay, well, thank you so much for your presentation, always well organized, and we appreciate you can usually answer most of our questions, so thank you very much. We're going to be discussing it coming up in the agenda.
Great. Thanks for your
Okay?
time, everyone.
Yes, thank you. Okay, next we're moving on to our public comment period. We have a maximum of 15 minutes for this, and anyone can comment on items from section 9 or 18 of our agenda. When you come up to the podium, you have 2 minutes, and you just need to state your name and your civic address. Come on up. And also say what you're going to, also say what you're going to be commenting on. Thanks.
Good afternoon. Name is Trevor Harris, 10918 Blair Street, Summerland. The reason I'm here today, as many of you know, I'm the Route 30 driver. I'm not representing BC Transit, Barry and Smith on this. I did read the reports. Unfortunately, I'm disappointed about the bus size and also our ridership down. But we've been getting frequent requests on a constant basis. We need to extend the bus to Lower Town. I know the Route 32 was supposed to do it. That's been shelved for now. So why don't we reroute the 30 to serve Lower Town via Solly and Lakeshore? You can have a couple bus stops along Solly, have one at Solly and Lakeshore, which would serve Rotary Beach and a quick walk to Peach Orchard, especially for the Tuesday markets. You'd have the Summerland Waterfront Resort for workers and tourists that don't have a car that want to come and explore Summerland or go into Penticton. And much more bigger residential area to serve, which in my opinion might boost the ridership back up, especially with the free fare program. My second option, that would be more of a priority, Lower Town. Second, in my opinion, would be taking the bus off 97 between Thornburg and Johnson and put the bus onto Thornburg and serve more of Trout Creek, more residential area, especially the RV park, because there are people that walk from there all the way into town just to get to work, and they would probably benefit more from the bus. And the taxpayers pay for the bus service, so why don't we actually provide them with the bus service? So my opinion, my priority would be extend Solly and Lakeshore, take the bus off 97, also less wear and tear on the bus engines because you're not really revving up the hill at a high RPM just to keep speed. Go through Trout Creek. All trips go through Trout Creek, so it's more utilized. And then finally, my third one would be get the bus out of the downtown core. From the Wharton and Kelly bus stop, I would go Kelly, then Brown, go up Prairie Valley to Sinclair to Jubilee. More residential area that probably benefit. I've had a couple passengers that actually live up there would benefit from the bus. And I did it after my morning run when I was out of service. I timed it and it only took 4 minutes to do that whole extension of the loop, 4 minutes. We have 2 hour and something breaks. We can lose a few minutes out for breaks to compensate to extend the bus service. So you guys probably got a bunch of emails from customers that would like a bus to closer to home. So I'd like to see, if possible, a motion or someone that we look at taking the bus off 97, particularly, especially Lower Town. They deserve it, and that's all I can think off the top of my head.
No, that's great. Thank you very much for your comments. That's very helpful. Okay, does anybody else have any comments for any of our items on the agenda today? Come on up.
My name's Casey Sorey. I live at 8013 Pierre Drive. Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. I'm here to talk about the baseball fields. As a kid, I spent countless hours on a baseball field just like this one. My dad coached me, and some of my best memories with him are wrapped up in dusty cleats, evening practices, and cheering from the sidelines. The time mattered more than I realized back then. It was also where I met many of my closest friends. We grew up together on fields. More than 30 years later, we're still close. Those friendships started with a glove and a ball and turned into lifelong connections. Today I stand in a really special place because now I get to coach my own son at Living Memorial Park, watching him learn to play on the same kind of field where I learned teamwork, confidence, and belonging, and it's incredibly meaningful. It's a full circle moment and reminds me how powerful these spaces really are. We've been invited back by the Jays Care Foundation Field of Dreams grant to apply once again, and we're asking for the town of Summerland to match that so we can complete the project that we have started. It isn't just about upgrades or infrastructure, it's about giving kids a reason to be outside, to be active, to build real friendships, to put their phones down and be part of something bigger than themselves. It's about creating moments that turn into memories and memories that turn into lifelong bonds. For Summerland, it builds community pride, supports local volunteerism, and draws families and visiting teams into our town who will spend time, money, and make their own memories here. It's a place where neighbors become friends, where memories are made, and where generations connect. Imagine a Friday night under the lights, the sound of your kids or grandkids and families cheering, players on the field giving it their all, and the whole community showing up to support and cheer them on. It's the kind of experience that stays for a lifetime. Living Memorial Park carries our history, our community spirit, and our hope for the next generation. It represents who we are as a community, supported, connected, and invested in our kids. With your support, we can make sure it remains a place where our veterans can be honored, where our kids can grow, our families connect, and Summerland's story can continue to be written. Thanks for your time and for supporting the families and our children of this beautiful community.
Thank you very much for that. Okay, is there anybody else? Come on up.
Not quite as polished as.
That's okay. All welcome.
And full name and address. Yes, Susan Robinson. I live at 14010 Am Avenue here in Summerland. I come to you as a 26-year community member. I moved here from the Rocky Mountains and didn't think that I could find a community that matched what I left, and was so amazingly surprised at such a wonderful, growing community. And I have born 2 children here. Like many of you, I've born and raised my children here, and we have taken full advantage of the parks and the diamonds that you so wonderfully have here. And they have learned so much in their sportsmanship here, and I appreciate that they've learned teamwork, confidence, and they forged lifetime friendships. Both my children still live here. They're now grown up, and perhaps I'm not there yet, but I might be able to see some grandchildren actually enjoy the fruits of this community. These spaces are where parents, grandparents, and friends can also connect. It's not just about the children, it is about the entire community enjoying the fruits of this project. We would like to see our youngsters see a safe place to gather, grow, and belong. I hope that the council sees it in their wisdom to continue supporting this worthy project, which means so much to so many, and in also honoring the history of this wonderful small town. I mean, I look 15 minutes north and 15 minutes south, and there's nothing that compares to Summerland. We really are blessed. And thank you to Melissa and Jeff for starting this, and let's take it over the home plate.
Great, thank you. Anyone else?
Okay.
Yep, come on up.
Okay. It's still on. My name is Bernadette Actum, and I live at 19256 Lakeshore Drive, Summerland. I'm the one who wrote the handwritten email to you, or letter to you, and also I sent an email yesterday morning, and that was about the choices for a bus stop in Lower Town. Anyway, thank you for considering it. I want to just add, I was on my way here, walking by the school, and all the children were out playing at lunch hour, and my grandson was there. So he said, "Hi, Baba." So I said, "Oh, I'm on my way to a town meeting, and I'm going to see if I can get a bus stop." And all his friends were there. I said, "For you and your friends." And he was quite, "Oh." And I said, "Then you wouldn't have to, you could take the bus to the skate park," which he loves to do. I thought, oh, that kind of, his eyes lit up, and his friends were kind of, and you could take a bus to your friend's place. And the friends were eyes lit up. And so that would be great. They were approved of it, and they also added, and then I added, of course, that, and then your parents, parents wouldn't have to drive you uptown to your fun activities, and also to Penticton. You could take the bus to Penticton. And they're all, he's 11, and then he's got some siblings and cousins. Not cousins, he has cousins too, but good friends that live down in Crescent Beach. And they were like, yeah, they're all, well, they're 14. They can take the bus, and mom doesn't, or dad doesn't have to drive. So it would help a lot of people. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, anyone else? Yeah, not usually during public comment. That's okay. Perhaps later when we have a discussion. Okay. All right, so seeing no further comments then, thank you all for coming up and sharing your thoughts with us. We always really appreciate it. And now we're going to move on to our business items. And our first item is the Summerland Minor Baseball Association matching funding request. And I'll hand it over to Lori.
Good afternoon, Council. This report is a follow-up to the Summerland Minor Baseball Association's delegation presentation this afternoon. They are requesting that the District of Summerland allocate additional funds towards Phase 2 upgrades to Field 96 Baseball Diamond at Living Memorial Park to match and leverage their application to the Jays CARES grant up to $200,000. As the presentation outlined, the SMBA is anticipating to complete Phase 1 of Field 96 upgrades this spring, with expenses totaling approximately $550,000. Funding for Phase 1 was achieved through $185,000 from the District of Summerland, $185,000 from the Blue Jays CARES grant, $50,000 from the RDOS pending budget approval adoption, and the remainder from community fundraising. Phase 2 works, as outlined in the SMBA application, would include further electrical works and the purchase and installation of stadium lighting. These works are estimated at approximately $427,000. The SMBA has issued a letter, which is attached to the council report, and outlines the following 3 requests. Matching funds to the amount of $200,000 corresponding with the Blue Jays CARES award to be released in the 2026 budget year, and a collateral letter of support for the project. The application deadline is February 27th. They are secondarily asking for a lesser amount rather than having no contribution. And if the SMBA is not to be selected through the Blue Jays CARES grant for additional funding, they will continue to work with staff on requesting funding through the regular budgeting process beginning in August of 2026. This request was provided to the Director of Finance to outline the financial implications and potential funding sources. Dave is in attendance and can answer Council's questions, but in summary, he has noted that the timing of this request is not optimal, as mentioned in the presentation, as we are nearing the end of the 2026 budgeting process. The majority of the Phase 2 funding relates to lighting and electrical work, and as such, should Council wish to support this funding request, staff's recommendation would be to fund this from the Electrical Utility Capital Reserve. However, there is only $52,000 remaining of unallocated funding in the electrical reserve, so any confirmed funding beyond that amount would require the district to eliminate certain capital projects from the plan or look at debt financing to cover this deficit. Other funding sources are outlined in the report, which include the Growing Communities Reserve, Canada Community Building Fund Reserve, Asset Management Reserve, and reallocating projects from the General Reserve. All of these options have corresponding impacts, which are outlined in the report. Staff can go into more detail if council would wish. The staff report also notes that there have been other sport organizations requesting District of Summerland support, including the Lakeshore Racquet Club for $125,000 grant and aid to help fund the construction of a new indoor tennis facility. We also know the Summerland Pickleball Association is exploring a new indoor pickleball facility. So with that, I turn it back to council for deliberations, and Dave and I are here to answer any questions that you might have. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you, Lori. Okay, council. Who would like to start us off? Go ahead.
All right, thanks, Madam Chair. Okay, this question is a Dave question, Director of Finance. So the $52,000 that's currently available or unallocated in the electrical reserves, does that speak to, is that the source of where we originally would have gotten the grant, put together the funding if council had committed the $250,000 original match? Does that make sense? Yeah. Kind of backwards, but.
So through the deputy mayor, I think what you're asking is, had this come to council during budget deliberations, like other projects, and council was looking at funding it through different funding sources, would this have been funded through the electrical utility reserve? Is that the question?
That's part one. You got a little bit.
So part one, yes, that's where staff would have most likely brought forward a funding source for the matching $200,000, yes, in the electrical side.
So to keep this thought rolling, so originally council had committed up to $250,000 towards the project. So that leaves $65,000 that weren't needed at the time, because that $65,000, that gap is kind of there. We gave the Summerland Minor Baseball Association, or the Blue Jays Field of Dreams, $185,000. So that gap to the 250 is $65,000. I'm just wondering if that ended up allocated anywhere.
So through the chair, through the mayor, or deputy mayor, sorry. Yeah, that 65,000 is gone. It's once we went through the budgeting process for 2026 through 2030, we knew that at that point in time, the 185,000 that council gave to this project for phase one, it was no longer 250, so that 65 was reallocated to different areas.
Okay, I understand. Thank you.
Councillor Barkwell.
If it's the right time, I'd like to put a motion on the table for discussion and provide my rationale for the motion. Okay. I'd like to propose that council commit $65,000 being as a matching contribution, being that's the amount between what was originally approved and what was actually required the first time around. And I think part of my support for this comes from soon after we'd done that, I flew in to Penticton, and then we went over Kelowna and down over near Matta, and I looked down and I was amazed at how many sports fields were lit up that you could see. It was at nighttime, of course. And it really just adds to the usefulness of the sports field. It's obviously something that's done a lot because you could really notice it. And I think it would be a great addition to what we have there. So it kind of fits to stick with the original commitment. And the funding, which is the second part, it would be the electrical reserve and whatever $8,000 Dave could find.
Okay, we just need a seconder. Okay, sorry, Councillor Betts, seconding. Okay. Anybody else want to comment on the motion? Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm on a different page than Councillor Barkwell. We have our first $185,000. It was $250,000. We did not make a decision at that time where the funding was going to come from until we found out if the minor baseball were awarded. And then we found out they were awarded. and we matched it 185. So at the time, it was matching it up to 250. So it wasn't that we had a surplus of $60,000 left. So when we take a look at that, and we look at this year, we're having a 6.36% tax increase. 185,000 that we gave to minor baseball is equivalent to a 1.85%. They're asking for another 200,000, which is equivalent to another 2% tax increase. It does not matter if the money comes from tax dollars, if it comes from reserves, the money all comes from our citizens, our ratepayers. And at this point, I'm sorry, but I think that our ratepayers have done a phenomenal job by allowing us to give $185,000. It's great community support. If the community wants to put more money into this, then the individual community members can donate. But I think at this point in time, I cannot support another matching funds for the stadium lighting.
Okay, Mayor Holmes, I can't see you there. Did you want to weigh in at all?
No, I'm listening to the conversation.
Okay, fair enough. Anyone else? Go ahead, Councillor Van Elfen.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I have to wholeheartedly agree with Councillor Patton. I am so impressed with the amount of work that's been done at the ballpark. And I've got a grandson that plays there. I think I got a son that's involved on your board. And I am so impressed, but I agree, 185,000. We did what we said we were going to do. And we matched the Blue Jays Foundation grant at 185,000. RDOS has contributed 50,000. And as taxpayers of Summerland, we contribute to the RDOS. So that's another, our citizens are paying for that too. And I agree, it's a great, great cause. And I love to see it, but I think we've done what we said we were going to do on the first round. The second round, at this point in time, I don't see us having the money. And unfortunately, or fortunately, it's not the only organization that's going to be coming to this table. We know we're going to have others coming to look. And when we look where our Director of Finance is trying to scratch this money up, what happens when some other organization shows up 2 weeks from now? It's like we're going to spend all our money in one spot. And we know we got other people coming. So, I mean, at this point in time, I can't support it. Thanks.
Okay, I'll go to Councillor Peak and then over to Betts.
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor. I really struggle to put more money out on this particular project when I have to balance what's the opportunity within our community. I'm very aware of putting more burden on our taxpayers to be able to answer a recreational need when I know there are other things that need to be accomplished. And as Councillor Patton and Councillor Van Alphen have said, we know that there are other recreational purposes that are looking for funding as well. And I struggle to make those things happen at this particular time. I can't say putting that greater tax burden on.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So this one has been a struggle because I recognize where everybody's going with their line of thinking. But when I also think about it, I reflect back upon the willingness around the table to support the 250 at the beginning as kind of talking about a compromise. I think it would be challenging for us to go above that at this time. I mean, I would love the idea, but it's hard to structurally achieve that. I mean, it's not impossible. Anything is possible, but I remember sitting around this table when council decided that $250,000 was the number that we were willing to go towards this project with. And so for me, I actually feel that $65,000 to match up to that, to basically to the 250 where we originally approved would be somewhere that, that I could live with, but I note that I don't think is going to achieve the project. And so I'm worried about that because I don't want it to jeopardize the overall plan, but any support is better than none when it comes from the municipality in your grant application. I just want to note that I think as well, when the district acknowledged these upgrades, that there would be some additional operating costs that we decided to take on. Lori, is that a you in terms of operational budgets, just so that we have kind of an overall view about what the district is actually achieving with our operational commitments at the field in terms of irrigation and mowing and that kind of thing. What kind of is our annual budget at Living Memorial Park in contributions? Do you know what that might be?
Through the chair to Councillor Betts. The operational budget for Living Memorial Complex, that's for all the fields, is just over $60,000 for this year. That's gone up about $8,000 from the previous year.
Right, just 8,000, which that's not too bad. For me, I mean, I think one of the things that I think about as well when we're talking about our recreational opportunities in town is we have an arena and a curling rink that service, some small groups of people. I mean, into the couple hundreds with our curling club, which is a really active bunch of people half the year. And as a district, we commit to replacing the chillers and making investments and making that building usable in the long term for those users, which we have done. We did a $950,000 chiller upgrade on the arena. Correct me if I'm wrong, $750,000 chiller upgrade in the curling side. These are huge investments. And the roof of the arena, that's a separate project. So in light of looking at the bigger picture and what recreation brings to our citizens and how important it is, I wish that I could just say yes to 200,000, but I don't think that the willingness is there at the table. But I'm good for 65, and I hope that can get us somewhere.
Okay, go ahead, Councillor Barkwell.
Yes, I recognize that this is a particularly bad time and a bad year to be asking for money, but I hadn't in mind to say similar things as Councillor Betts. We contribute a lot of money for a lot of other activities. I don't know what particular requests Councillor Van Alphen is referring to as knowing is coming, but we can know that there always will be requests, and we always encourage that there's a contribution from the users as well as there is in this. Like, this is a phenomenal sort of contribution when we get outside grants and all this support from citizens and fundraising and volunteer labor. And I also feel it's a little bit like reneging on our original commitment for $250,000 for the project if we don't offer to match that original $250,000 with an additional, with $65,000 commitment to this grant application.
Okay, I'll weigh in as well. I'm going to support the motion that's on the table for several reasons. One, the work that's already been invested is been proven to me. Like, they have done an excellent job. And so I know that this is a good investment in our community. The second reason is that we have the ability to leverage other people's money. And anytime that we can do that, and it's within reason, I think that is a good opportunity for our town. I would love to be able to give more as a councillor, but we are having a very tough year, and we are asking our taxpayers for a tax increase this year, and it is so difficult to meet all of the needs, even though I love recreation and I would love to give everybody new facilities and everything they need. We have to balance everything. So I see $65,000 as kind of a middle ground. It's meeting the original commitment in the motion that we passed on February 11th, 2025, that said that we would commit up to 250. I'm comfortable meeting that. The other thing is that when I stand back and I look at this project, there's so much community involvement in it. So many people have put in, and you don't often see that. And when I see how much people have committed of their own time and how much joy it brings to everybody, and I'm sure that the councillors who aren't in favor of giving 65 feel the same way too. They're just, they're balancing all the things that we have to balance. But I love that it's for kids and that this will, bring more kids out and getting them outside and extending the amount of time that they can play. So while it's not what you came here for, I think it's a compromise given all the constraints that we have right now. So I will be voting in favor of this. And I'll just check with Mayor Holmes. Did you have a comment at all?
No, go ahead, call the vote.
Yeah, okay. All right. Go ahead, Councillor Peak.
I really struggle hard with this one. I look at the money that we put into the skateboard park, that we had so much pushback on. It was $465,000 or something. But it was such a cooperative thing, and you see it used so much that when you have people working towards the opportunity for our young people to be involved for a long length of time in their lives, I think that's really important. But I sure struggle with it. That's like 0.75%. So I really am struggling, but anyway, I just wanted to mention that expenditure.
Councillor Patton?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So our Director of Finance said there's about $51,000, Dave, in the electrical reserve. So we're still shy by $14,000. So if I may ask, what's falling off the table in regards to funds that we have, as in our report said? Is it going to be the Dales Meadow washrooms that's going to take the hit? That the upgrades there? Is it going to be the rodeo grounds? Is it going to be Powell Beach washrooms? What project in Summerland is going to take a hit for the additional $15,000 that we're going to, in addition to our $51,000 where we're depleting the electrical reserve?
Dave, you had some potential options listed. Those projects aren't for this year, they're for upcoming years. So if one of them had to be pushed out a year or two, some of them have already been pushed out a couple of years, but I'm just taking, for example, the Fenwick Road parking and trailhead amenities for $115,000. If that was pushed out a couple of years, would that make a big difference? And we pushed it out several times already.
So good question. The short answer is no. The way the 5-year capital plan is balanced right now takes into account all of those projects being funded in this 5-year span. So the only way to free up those funds is you would have to push or kill the project at least 5 years to free up those funds.
Do we need to make that decision right now in terms of where that extra 15 would come from?
It would provide staff with some clarity in terms of when we have to do a budget amendment. However, we wouldn't actually do a budget amendment until such time as if we knew that Summerland Minor Baseball received a grant. So as this is a matching grant, from my perspective on the budget side, I won't be doing anything until such time as I'm made aware of whether or not there is a matching grant or not. So to answer your question, sorry, in theory, no, you would not have to provide that direction right now. But when we brought the budget amendment forward, that would probably be the time to do it.
Okay, and we would only be bringing that forward should the grant be successful?
Correct.
Okay. Councillor Barkwell.
Yeah, I don't have the budget numbers in front of me, but sort of to look at it in perspective and as a percentage term, what's their total budget for 5 years in our 5-year capital plan? How many millions of dollars is that total that we have to work with to juggle around. I guess my point is if it's $5 million that is in the 5-year capital plan, moving things or delaying something for 15,000 isn't going to be too difficult.
So through the chair, just in a general fund alone, our 5-year capital plan is $28.5 million.
Yeah.
So once we factor in the utility budgets, we're probably closer to, I'd say, 35, 40 million.
Okay. Final comment? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, not a final comment, just an idea. I mean, Lori, I think this might might impact. So just an idea, looking at, we've got 2 bathroom upgrades at Dale Meadows and Powell Beach at $39,000 and $50,000. Is there a way to kind of like downgrade the quality of the upgrade? That makes sense. But to basically achieve $15,000 in savings, do you think that that gets kind of into the nitty gritty, but do you think there's a possibility there to find $15,000 in that regard?
Through the chair to Councillor Betts, my recommendation would be to look at projects beyond this year, since you've already made commitments to this year, and we're starting to look at the things like the Dale Meadows washroom upgrades. But the remaining 2027 through the following 4 years, we could look to see where we could find savings if that's council direction and other projects, whether it's campground road paving or the Fenwick Road, we could look to reduce those. And these are just a few projects that were thrown in here. There are other projects on there, so we could do a deeper dive on where we could find that.
Okay, so we know that if they do get the approval and we do give the money, then we might have to do some shuffling, but otherwise we can leave it for now because again, we are waiting for confirmation on that grant. Okay, so any further comments? Nope, seeing none, I will call the question then. You see the motion on the screen there. All in favor? Opposed? Mayor Holmes, are you opposed or are you for? You're delayed a little.
I'm in favor.
In favor. Okay, so that carries. Okay. Thank you, council. All right. Moving on to 9.2, Route 30 Penticton Summerland bus sizing information. And Julie has this.
Thank you. So there was a request for staff to examine the current bus capacity in Summerland and provide information from BC Transit on the process of obtaining a larger bus. So this report outlines the findings regarding the Route 30 bus sizing. So the conclusion is that the current buses are not experiencing sufficient ridership deficiencies, and that would require further investigation and investment in a heavy-duty bus, and therefore it is not recommended to proceed with a larger bus request through BC Transit. And we have Bart Wallman, Government Relations Manager for the Okanagan region of BC Transit, is here online to answer any questions.
Okay, council, do you have any questions? Go ahead, Councillor Betts.
Thank you for the presentation. I think it's clear that at this time, at least, that the bus capacity is still meeting the requirements. But I think that the conversation around the route is worth looking into. And so it's Bart, is that the right name? Just the name disappeared on the screen. If our stakeholder from BC Transit could speak to how do the opportunities work for adding service on the Route 30 that already exists, but basically adding stops in Lower Town, for example. What is the operational cost increase? How does that work? Or because it's on the same path, is it similar? What are the implications of that kind of decision?
Hi, thank you for your question. So through the chair, I can address kind of conceptually how transit expansion works and then get into some more specifics about what transit expansion and route adjustments would look like in Summerland. So broadly, how BC Transit contracts with the district is that or that you procure services through BC Transit based on service hours. That's the number of hours that we require our buses to be on the road in order to provide the level of service that the district requires. So in this case, it's the Route 30 as well as your on-request service, which is your in-town and Penticton to Summerland twice daily round trip. So right now that's about 4,700 annual hours. If you are looking to add service, to add, a little bit of extra time or have the Route 30 extend out to another neighborhood, we would need to do some analysis to determine the number of service hours required to ensure that we're able to service that area, consistently and reliably. We wouldn't want to just kind of squeeze it into the existing schedule and perhaps be, early or late for future stops. So we would put together some analysis and bring that back to staff and potentially council. And if the request is significant, we would then include it in our annual transit improvement process, which is an annual process that we go through with all local governments in the province who are looking to make significant changes to their transit service, including adding new service. We then consolidate those asks, go back to council, determine what the actual costing and implementation would look like, and then go to the province and request the corresponding provincial subsidy, which is about 50%. If council or staff request adjustments that can be made in a net neutral way, so either by kind of trimming service from one area or in a lot of cases, adding a single stop is not particularly, impactful to our route timing. That could often be made as part of like, in-year adjustment that we do with collaboration from council and staff. If you wanted to add a bus stop that was already on an existing route, for instance, so the bus wouldn't deviate from the existing route, we have a bus stop program that I believe Summerland has taken advantage of in the past, where both federal and provincial funding is available. Local government pays between 10 and 20% for the actual stop itself. We would work with you to construct the stop, and the bus could potentially service it.
Right, and so, but that is specifically on a route that it's already going, whereas this suggestion would be to, instead of going down the highway, would be to travel down one of our, collector roads down to the beach and across, and then out towards the highway lower. So it would change the route as far as BC Transit is concerned.
Yeah, through the chair, yeah, absolutely. It would change the route. We would need to determine if it would take longer for the bus to service that route. And then kind of, again, we'd go back to the fundamental question of if we're adding service hours, that's a larger process that has, the province and other kind of stakeholders as partners. And if it's an adjustment that would be net neutral in terms of the time it takes, or there would be, pieces of the route that can be adjusted elsewhere in order to compensate for that, then that's something we can do without going through that formal process. Internally, what it would look like is us sitting down with our planners and scheduling team to determine the impact and then getting back to staff relatively quickly.
Okay, thanks for that.
Thank you.
Councillor Barkwell.
During construction, things have changed, so I have two questions if I could. Where does the bus stop in the downtown area now? Anybody?
Where does the bus stop?
Yeah.
Wharton, Victoria Road.
Just like we're on Victoria Road by the post office?
Yes.
And then Wharton Street? At the library?
Library, yeah.
And then does it also stop on Rosedale? Where the bus
I'm getting a nod, yes, Rosedale.
Yeah. So we got 3 stops within a very small radius, 4. Well, I missed one. That seems like a little bit of a waste of time. If we're just thinking, and I thought of that when you talked about something being sort of a net neutral change in the time. I really see some potential value in all of the suggestions that have been made by the people, Sinclair, Trout Creek, through Trout Creek and down through Lower Town. I don't know, I have a suggestion whether Solly or Peach Orchard is a better route to take. Is there a way that we can test it for 6 months? Make an assessment then?
I think it,
Yeah.
sorry, if that's directed to me, those kind of changes are tougher to implement. So pilots and transit routing generally takes riders some time to adjust to. So when we see new transit expansion roll into a community, not necessarily Summerland, but Kelowna, for instance, it does take time for people to figure it out, and we don't see, generally people using it on day one. They've got to realize, oh, this is here now. Maybe cancel their parking or adjust. So short-term trials are very difficult, and generally the data is not great, and particularly that could be exacerbated by a small community like Summerland, where one or two really frequent riders can actually adjust your data quite a bit. So I wouldn't recommend a trial period for something like that. But we can look at data and determine, what the stop usage is, on the stops before and after where we're proposing, if we're proposing something along a current route. And see, what the distance is, if it meets our recommended requirements, and determine if a stop does make sense.
So we can do I don't know, for a period of time, we could add, first you have to study it, and then we could potentially do these additional stops, just change the routing a little bit. The changes, I don't know how well you know Summerland, but they don't seem significant. And then doing an assessment after you recommend something longer than 6 months, maybe a year, and then decide again whether it's worthwhile or needs further tinkering.
Yeah, we can certainly look at whether or not there's some optimizations that we can make, and I'd be happy to just follow up with staff. I've already booked a meeting.
Initiate that process.
Either council could request it formally here, or I've already just listening to the comments from the public and the comments from council in today's meeting, already set some time aside with myself and my colleagues this week to even start to talk about it.
Okay, I'm going to go to Mayor Holmes online.
So I don't see us eliminating any stops as being a solution. You're just trying to serve one area, and you'll shortchange the others. And the 3 downtown, that's not, sometimes they don't even stop downtown if there's nobody there waiting. It's just a loop around. They still have to loop around. So eliminating downtown stops isn't going to change a thing. I'd be curious, I guess, to know, would it be possible to if you're coming from Penticton, just to come off onto Lakeshore, make a stop in Lower Town, then come up Sully and continue the existing route? Can we do that, just that, within our current schedule? How much extra time would it add to the route? And we might be able to squeeze that in. Now, if we're looking for a bigger review and looking at where other parts of town where we could service, then I think that's something. It's something we did discuss the Route 31 at one point, and we didn't proceed with it because of cost, but I think it's something we council needs to discuss as if that's something we want to look at as part of our strategic priorities, because that's going to require that's going to require an expansion. But I'd be curious to know if we could just do that one little revision, and then if it is feasible, I guess the other big question is, can the bus go up Sully in the winter? What happens when there's snow? And I don't think the school buses go up all the way. They only go to Latimer. They don't go all the way from. I don't think they go all the way from the bottom of Sully all the way up. So, I think that's something that has to be considered as well.
Okay, good.
Thank you. Yeah, noted, and we'd be happy to look into that.
Councillor Peake, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor. I agree with our mayor in comments of coming off highway onto Lakeshore. I might suggest that I think that Peach Orchard would be a better way up and would still get you into the downtown very easily. So if we're looking at that kind of revision, I think that that would have a less impact as well.
Bard, I'll just add in something. I think as council, we're always trying to, get the most for our transit service, and the numbers in terms of ridership have kind of leveled off, and we brought in that free pass to try to boost that. And that's worked, but we're kind of seeing the leveling off again. And so I think if we can tweak our route, which apparently hasn't been tweaked in a very long time, with the small suggestion that Mayor Holmes said, that might just get, a new neighborhood of riders that we haven't been able to reach so far. So I agree with what Mayor Holmes said, in that if we could get those small changes without having to do a big review, that would be great. And that would kind of show us if we're on the right track. And then if we can get those numbers up, then we can continue with our transit expansion and strategic planning. I saw a comment over here. Go ahead, Councillor Betts.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is really what I was kind of thinking about and going for in my thinking about the transit, is that I think revision within our current budget is really important, because expansion really grows by leaps and bounds in terms of the budget, and the ridership doesn't necessarily dictate that. But being able to tweak a plan and a route, really, to access more riders, and that hill is so steep that it would give people some more opportunities. So, I mean, I really think that that's a sensible approach. I think Route 30, it's twice a day to and from Penticton, 5 times a day. 5, pardon me, somebody, must have heard the wrong thing, so thank you. We got 5 times a day, we got 4 stops downtown. And Prairie Valley. And the health center. Hey, well, that's great. So I just think that there's room for improvement here, and I like where this conversation is going.
Councillor Patton.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I guess my first question is to our Director of Finance. So the district's proposed 2026 operational transit budget is $303,746. So is that what we allot, or is there provincial and federal, I guess it'd be provincial, contributions on that $300,000?
Through the Deputy Mayor, that $330,000 is the district share, and then the province has their share on top of that. I can't remember if it's 56% and 46. I don't know which one has which percent, but that's our share.
Excellent, thank you. So I guess my second part of my question is that our transit revenues for 2026 are going to be $7,000 when our expenditure is $303,746. So I agree with Councillor Betts. I think we have to stay within a budget, which is a huge budget, where we're not, it's a benefit for some citizens that we have in Summerland. And possibly, but I believe that we need to look at staying within existing budgets in regards to changing of the route.
Bart, is that possible to investigate what Mayor Holmes suggested while staying within our budget?
Yeah, thank you for the question. Yeah, absolutely, we can investigate that. I mean, staying within budget narrows the scope of the request quite a bit, so we can just look at the impacts of deviations from the current route.
Okay, perfect. Councillor Barkwell.
I certainly agree with Councillor Patton that $300,000 is a lot of money. Yeah, so what we're talking about is how can we optimize the money we're spending, and maybe optimizing might cost another $5,000, $10,000. That I could live with. The cost another $100,000. Well, then we're out of the question, right? What I was proposing and why I suggested maybe we can eliminate a stop downtown is that if the route went, up, I don't know, up Prairie Valley, and then down Sinclair, and then back to the downtown area, and had a stop or two in the downtown area, or maybe even all the same if you wanted to, but because it doesn't seem to like hold them up at all. That's sort of an incremental increase, just like the lower through Lower Town, Peach Orchard Road and out. And then same as Trout Creek, to go off one of the Johnson and Back Wharf, something like that. It's not a huge change. And I'd like to see all three of these things at least investigated in some way. If BC Transit says, oh, okay, we can do one of them without significantly affecting the ridership, and this is the one we recommend, and then, or not ridership, but cost, then that's fine. We'll have to go with that. But also to get a cost estimate for these other tweaks, because each of them has potential, but I couldn't tell you for sure how many people are going to be getting off and on, if we add that. But it does seem it fits within the current route. We don't have to add another service.
Bart, when you do your work looking at this plan, do you take into, would you work with the drivers of that route just to get their feedback?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, absolutely. We would discuss feedback with Barron Smith, our local operating partner. It was nice to see Trevor speaking earlier with some significant feedback, and the direction and comments from the public as well, I think reflected that. I just want to kind of contain this a little bit though. Like, our review would be an internal review, perhaps a desk memo, something we've done in the past for other local governments, just providing a high level kind of assessment of the system. One thing I do want to flag just for council's knowledge is that you do have an on-request service in town as well. It operates Monday to Friday, 6:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m., where folks can call our local operating company, Barron Smith, and schedule a ride, kind of to and from anywhere in Summerland. That on-request service also services Penticton twice daily. So that is a really kind of great way for folks to get from, areas that may not be served by the 30, either into downtown or to areas that are better served by the 30 as well.
Okay, thank you for that. Mayor Holmes.
Yeah, just to follow up what Councillor Bark was saying. The thing is, if you go up to St. Clair, you are extending the route. So it is going to make it much longer, and it's hard to see how you're going to squeeze it in with the same service you have now. Whereas just going through Lower Town, you're not really extending the route. You're just taking a different way to get into town, and so I don't think it would take that much. That'd be more feasible in my mind to do within the current structure. Just because it's not an extension of the route, it's just a different way to get into town. So, and yeah, either going up Sully or Peach Orchard would work.
Okay, corporate officer, do we need a motion? Yes, okay. Would someone like to bring forward a motion summarizing? I think we're all on the same page in terms of what we're asking for, just asking Bart to come back with a high-level overview of whether we could make those tweaks. And I think, Bart, you have an idea of what we've been asking for. I'm also wondering if we should send BC Transit our feedback that we've received as council, because we've gotten quite a few letters. Would that be helpful? Or I'm having some councillors say it doesn't matter, but I don't know. Sometimes it's good to hear from people who actually ride the bus, just so that everybody's on the same page. We can probably send that along. Okay. So just getting a motion up here. That staff redirected to work with BC Transit to bring back a report to council on adjustments to Route 30 to accommodate additional stops within the current operating budget. That good? Okay. Mover, Councillor Barkwell. Seconder, Councillor Betts. Any further discussion? Go ahead.
I was just wanting to add to the motion and to provide cost information if it can't be done within the current budget. Like, to give us an estimate that it's going to cost. I mean, I think going along Lower Town and up Peach Orchard is going to add time. Time is money. And so just the same as going in an extra block. So I'd like to have also, if they can't do it within the current operating budget, how much more are they talking about? So I'll make that as an amendment because it got seconded.
Oh, yeah, it was seconded.
Yeah, so I'll put forward a motion to amend the motion to include information about additional costs as necessary.
So you're putting forward that amendment?
Let's see what it comes up on the board.
Kendra, do we vote on that amendment then?
Yes.
Okay.
Here.
Can you turn your mic on so Mayor Holmes can hear?
Through the mayor to Councilor Barkle, you could do it two ways. You could add we could add something to the last half, or we could just we could remove within the current operating budget. And then
Well, what you've written there is fine.
Yep, okay.
I think they understand.
So Kendra, just to clarify, do we need to vote on this?
You need to vote on the amendment.
Amendment, okay. Councillor Peak?
I'll make the amendment, or you want to make it?
I made it.
Okay, I'll second it.
Okay, so we're voting on the amendment, which is to include additional costs as necessary. Okay, all in favor? Okay, opposed? Okay, we have one opposed, Councillor Betts. Okay, now we're discussing the amended motion. Any further comments? No, seeing none? Okay, I just wanted to add that I'll be supporting this, and I think it's really important that we are constantly trying to make our transit better. We are paying a lot of money for it, and if it's not working, we need to know, and we need to make changes. And so we have noticed that the ridership has leveled off, so hopefully, with this possible change, we'll be able to boost our numbers a little bit. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I agree with you totally. The other thing too is as we look and we see what happens if there are any additional costs, truth of the matter is there's a free fare program in Summerland that costs us a lot. And so perhaps if we're going to do any bus route changes and there's financial implications, maybe something's going to have to fall off the table, and that could be free fares. So anyways, put it out there.
Okay, good discussion today. I will call the question. All in favor? Great. Okay, that carries unanimously. Thank you. Thank you very much, Bart, too, if you're still on. We appreciate you hanging in there with us. And we'll look forward to hearing back from you. Okay, thank you. Okay, we're moving on to 9.3, which is our capital projects update. And our CAO is going to introduce this.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Always pleased to introduce this. This is the report that we use to outline our major projects that are underway in the community. And as we know, we have the Prairie Valley Road project sort of wrapping up, Wharton Street project wrapping up, still reporting on that. But we're also introducing the new project, which is starting up very shortly, Victoria Road, extension of the works that had been done a couple of years ago, now all the way to the oval about, and we do have a cross section that we'll be walking through as well. So we don't have today our Director of Utilities, but we do have his very capable backup, Sean Grundy, here from the utility side, who will be able to speak to the capital side as it relates to the primary clarifier, which we'll also be reporting on today. As I've said in the past, always good to reiterate, we do these reports to try as much as possible to avoid surprises and make sure council has line of sight to everything we're working on, and is the same information we do. But at the end of the day, we cannot promise that there will never be any surprises. We just endeavor to do our best to minimize those. With that, I can turn it right over to staff if you like, starting with Joe.
Thank you, Graham, through the chair. I guess we'll just start out with the Wharton project, a brief update of what's happened over the last 3 weeks on that project. Council may have noticed yesterday the catenary lighting was actually put up on the poles that we had up there 3 weeks ago. So the lights are up, but they're not energized yet. The controller still has to be installed, and there's a bit more programming. They're not just simple plug it in and go lights. They're Wi-Fi ones, so there's a little bit more to go on that, but they're physically in place. We've also been working on getting the washroom issues sorted out just to make it safe, so it's safe to use for the public once we do open it, and so that we don't have to keep opening and closing it to have different trades come in and do little repairs here and there. But we're starting to come into sight that we'll likely be able to open them hopefully next week if all works out well. So we look forward to that. Outside of that, there's obviously the landscaping that is gonna start when winter ends, if winter ever comes. So we're gonna give it a few more weeks, and then we can start planting some of the landscaping in there, just in case Mother Nature comes back again. And then there's a little bit more work at the electrical substation that an electrical subcontractor is going to be working on, which still kind of falls within the scope of this project. Any questions on Wharton?
No. Oh, Councillor Barkwell, he's formulating something.
I was just looking.
The hamster's on the wheel.
Sorry, I was just looking through the report, which unfortunately I hadn't scrutinized close enough. Where are we? Are we going to spend the entire budget? I guess there was optional things that at the end of it, if there's money that we could, it was going to be spent one way or the other, right?
Yeah, through the chair. We are nearing top of budget for the project, but this project's also not just a 2025, 2026 project. Some of that budget you have endorsed in the past is actually spread out through to 2028 when the actual poles get brought down. So this 6.1 that you see in this budget, that was for this year and last year's portion of the budget. So there is still a few things to go. And there are going to be a couple of additional items that still aren't in here. That's why we're only at the 99% mark here. Some signage still has to come in, and there's some other tweaks that still have to happen to finish the project off completely. But we are near the top of the budget for that general project.
Okay. That's good for Wharton Street. Oh, Councillor Barkwell, back again?
Yeah, I was just wondering, like, it says 99% of project complete based on budget spend, but budget spend to date is only 6 million. So the total budget was about 8 million, wasn't it? So budget spend is about 3/4 of.
Correct, through the chair. I wasn't clear on that. Yeah. So the budget spend that we have right now on the page in front of you is the 2025, 2026 amount of that budget. The electrical components that include pulling the cables and actually taking down the poles in 2028 are part of that 8.5 or whatever that the larger total was. This is just to demonstrate this year's construction component of the project, not the
full
project right through to 2028 completion.
So it's 99% of this year's budget and things. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Just of this, basically this construction contract that we have with OK Civil. That's what we've got.
Is the remaining work contracted yet, or is it yet to be let? It wasn't in the original contract.
Much of it's going to be internal forces, but it's not contracted yet, no.
Okay.
I think for clarity, Councillor Barkwell has a point. People are concerned about prices for projects, and we were authorized to borrow a certain amount of money for this project. So you said that it's spread out over a couple of years. So we've spent 99% of it for portion for this year. Next year we'll spend more, but I think it just needs to be written somewhere that it's still within the scope of the project, just so that, it doesn't look like we're going overboard and spreading it out over years. It is all within the same budget. Do you not get what I'm saying? I just want to be transparent about how it's being spent.
For sure. Maybe it's easiest if I break it out. There's two different projects that are sort of lumped together here. One's the general, which had the borrowing component to it. The other's the electrical project that wasn't borrowing. It's in the reserves in future years. So maybe at the end of this project, like once we're finished this project, we can just have a conclusion to the project, and then here's the next steps moving forward over the next few years, just to finish that off. Because we are we're very close to the end of this phase of the project. So.
Okay, that makes sense.
And then the remainder is an electrical project from there on.
Okay, perfect. You good, Councillor Barkwell, with that? Kind of? If you think of anything else, we can come back to it. Okay, so that's Wharton Street. Next we have Victoria Road and water main upgrades.
Okay, so this project, as council will remember, was a 2025 project that we deferred to 2026 as it was going to be right in the middle of a detour of another project that we had on the go last year. So we decided to do this in one sitting in 2026 and have it done by the summer of this year. So the project was tendered last year, awarded in January of this year, and so we do have a contractor all lined up to do the project. We have the kickoff meeting is on Thursday. It's a pre-construction meeting, and we just want to have that finished so that once we feel that winter is officially done, we can start on the project right away. Everybody wants to get this one done sooner than later, so as soon as we have a good window where we know that Mother Nature's not coming back, we're going to start on it. I just wanted to walk council through just a reminder of what this project entails. So I think everybody has an 11 by 17 page in front of you there. That's a general overview of the project. It doesn't get into the nitty-gritty about what valves are going in where, but just a sort of an overview of the project. So I'll walk you through the Dale Meadows component of it first. So that's the top part of the drawing that you have in front of you. So what we're doing there, this is mainly the water component of the project. So what we're doing is we're twinning the water. So we're making it so that untreated water can actually go through the entirety of this project. So currently the untreated water goes to the Dale Meadows sports fields. So we're now going to be extending that all the way through down Dale Meadows to Victoria Road and then north to the Oval Boat. So there's quite a bit of valving that has to go in there, a bunch of service changes and such in that area road. While we have all that road dug up, we'll be obviously repaving it at the end, but also putting in a multi-use pathway just for safe access, basically from Victoria Road all the way through to Walton Crescent, which by extension would get you to Dale Meadows Field. So that's the safety component of this part of the project. But there is that whole entire area of Dale Meadows. There is a bunch of water work that has to happen there. So there will be some closures to that road from time to time or for extended periods just in that localized area. But obviously there will be workarounds for the traffic and it'll be well advertised so people know what to expect going through there.
Councillor Betts?
Thank you so much for this. I'm actually really excited about all the work happening and I want to know more about the rest of it, but I really do have a question about this. The one part leading into Dale Meadows. So the full soccer and ball season starts in April. And on any given night, you might have 150 cars in and out. Is it possible for this section up to like Walton or just that water twinning for cars to be able to access to be complete before April?
We're going to do our best to have the least disruptions going in and out of there because we do have there's Adams Avenue, so there is some area where we can create small detours in there, but our goal is to avoid as much the ball field season as we can. That's why we want to get this project started sooner than later. Even if we can get the waterworks in so that people can drive on gravel, you can't drive through an open ditch. So the goal is to make it as least disruptive as we can along that section.
Okay, that's great to hear because I just think that needs to be a huge part of the project planning. If just one part of it can happen before some of the others, only because it's our only in and out to that whole balls facility. Thank you.
Yeah, without a detour, you could go around the other way, but that's a significant detour.
But you wouldn't be able to access parking.
Sorry, the parking will be available at any time. But you may have to go around on Hadrill Avenue and then down and through. That little bit that's torn up there, that's a small water service, basically, that's on the driveway to Dale Meadows.
Yeah.
So that's not a significant amount of work right there. We'll be able to allow traffic in and out through there. It's just the Dale Meadows Road section that's going to be fairly well torn apart.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you for that.
Okay. Oh, sorry.
So looking at this Dale Meadows section again, that's sidewalk from Victoria Road South right down to the crescent on Dale Meadows Place, right? Is that
multi-use pathway? Yes. So asphalt.
So wider than sidewalk.
Correct.
So a lot of times people are parking cars there at the sign place. They won't at the corner of Victoria and Dale Meadows. I see two little rectangles there. Is that sort of changing parking from facing the building to have to be parallel parking in the future? And they'll just drive right over this area, won't be raised? Is that how it's going to work?
It is correct. We have been working with the owner of that establishment just to sort out the parking for their business. The majority of it will be off the front on Victoria Road. We're going to define that intersection much better. Currently, it's not very well defined. There's no receiving spot for pedestrians as they use the crosswalk. You're just sort of let on the side of the road. So it is a significant safety improvement that we're doing there.
Yeah. What is so you have the dark gray for the multi-use pathway, to use the correct term, and then the spotted gray at either end. What does the spotted gray connotate or indicate?
Spotted gray. Oh, those are, so that's a concrete letdown. So that's where the pedestrians will get on and off of the multi-use pathway.
But the multi-use pathway is level with the road?
A little bit higher than the road, but yes, it's mountable.
So that you would drive over it because it's just a small change. Okay. Then, and what is the little symbol, if I could add, at the end of Dale Meadows Place, there's a symbol of some kind. What does that mean? At the crescent. Looks like stairs in a way, but I'm sure it's not.
It's a crosswalk.
Oh, yeah, sorry. That's a crosswalk across the driveway there, the entrance to Dale Meadows.
Councillor Barkle, it's a crosswalk that connects the walking path around.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Okay, so that's the Dale Meadows portion. Victoria South.
Correct. Yeah. So then the Victoria South, so this is the bottom part of your drawing you have in front of you. So this one starts to the south at Dunham Crescent. So that's where council will remember we did that multi-use pathway that currently exists on Victoria. That's where we left off last time. So it's going to start there. And it's basically installation of a multi-use pathway all the way from there to just south of the oval boat. So we're not quite getting to the oval boat. To include the oval boat would have been significant property acquisition, like there would have been quite a bit more work. So we've stopped just shy of that. And if there is a current sidewalk along there, we're removing that sidewalk and replacing it with this multi-use pathway. So it's a multi-use pathway, very similar to the one that we have currently on Victoria, all the way to the end. So it will look very consistent with what we've already installed there. We'll also be doing from Dale Meadows Road to the oval boat, we have to redo the services to the water main along there in order to do this switch over for the water mains. So that's part of the water service upgrade. So that whole entire area will be essentially dug up and then repaved at the end. So we will, at the end of the day, have a full paved road both directions, so no saw cuts, the whole entire length, as well as a multi-use pathway that's elevated, very safe for the pedestrians to use. There's no sidewalk or multi-use pathway on the west side of the road as it is currently, except for on the right up to about Beavis Place. We're doing a little bit of additional sidewalk in that area, but we don't have the right of way to go any further. So we're going right up to the district boundary for the road there. So there is some water main work involved in this area, but the majority of this is road work and multi-use upgrades. The funding for this project is, we did receive, there's essentially 3 grants that we've received for this project. One of them is for $1 million, and that's matching funds for the waterworks on the project. So anything that relates to waterworks, for every dollar we spend, we get $1 of grant funding up to $1 million, and we're right around that 2 million, so we're going to try to maximize that grant. We've also got for the multi-use pathway and for the pedestrian upgrade, so this includes like the intersection of Dale Meadows and Victoria, an appropriate proper crossing with the flashing crossers, all the multi-use pathways, the crossings for this project. So we received $500,000 for that. And then we received $31,000 from ICBC as part of the road safety grant, just for all the road safety improvements that we're doing on this project. So of the $3.88 million budget, 1.53 is grant funded that we have to use this year. As I mentioned, the goal of this project is to be finished by early summer, so end of June, early July is the substantial completion date, if everything goes as planned. And the start date is to be determined, but likely earlier than we originally anticipated.
Councillor Van Elfen and then Betts.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Through to Joe. Can you remind me who the contractor is that was awarded the project?
Yes, it's Okanagan Civil Constructors, the same group that is just finishing up the Wharton project.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. So actually my question is about the sidewalk improvements at Beavis. So it looks like there's some upgrades on that side, like you mentioned, on the north side of the intersection, putting in concrete sidewalk where the multi-use pathway will be on the south side of the road there, continuing all. But now that Giants Head School isn't there, you know, I'm just not sure that I'm sure that I'm seeing the value in putting sidewalk on the north side there and those adjustments, because it's not a high use area anymore. It really changed, like that whole flow changed so significantly with Summerland Elementary changing, and these plans were done when Summerland Elementary was just a blink of an eye, so a sparkle in all of our eyes. So would there be any discussion about taking that out of the project? It's just we're adding sidewalk on Victoria South, on both sides of Beavis, on the north side of the road, where nobody is walking anymore. You know, you don't really have people who are walking to a school along Vic South on that side of the road, because they're going to cross and get to the multi-use pathway. I'm just trying to think ahead, because we're just adding sidewalk in a very small space here. I'm not sure about the value now that this has changed. Before that was a high traffic location, and it's not really anymore. What are your thoughts there, Joe?
So through the chair, we're replacing sidewalk in that area, and it's actually just more the catchment area. When you use that crosswalk, it's a spot for the pedestrians to land and to connect on that side of the road. It's not a significant amount of sidewalk in that area, but it's just to ensure that we have the flow, the appropriate flow through there, that we've put that in.
Okay, just as long as we're thinking about it.
Mayor Holmes?
That's okay.
Okay, there is still the the Montessori school in that area. And then people are still, probably not as much as when the kids were there, but people are still walking through this area in order to get to Dale Meadows and out walking their dogs and stuff. So I think if there's, sidewalk just on the corner there that needs to be replaced and you're already digging everything up, might as well just finish it off. Okay. Any other questions about this project? Or Joe, do you have anything to add? So that will get started then as soon as possible. Okay, great. Okay, so the final project for today is the primary clarifier.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll try and keep this
relatively quick. I've got a couple different updates that weren't included within the actual report here, so I'll just kind of touch on the high points. If you need more detail, just ask and I can add it. So for the work completed in the last period in January, some of the bigger ones were the electrical installations in progress, and that is one of the items that's kind of determining the rate of this progress or this project. All of the process mechanical pumps have been installed, and I'll get into it a little bit later, but Okanagan Civil Constructors, who Joe mentioned, they're doing all the civil work on this project, and they've been doing a lot of pipe work for us. So a lot of relatively big pipe, 18-inch piping between the different clarifiers and the blending box and the splitter box in the existing building has gone in. Jumping forward a little bit, the upcoming work for this period in February is they're going to complete the concrete program, so that's been a huge part of this, and it's really been what's held the schedule up quite a bit. So that's intended to be completed by February. The temperature has really been helpful over the course of this winter. The cover, the fiberglass cover over the top of it, was to have been delivered and installed, and it actually just got delivered yesterday, so that's always big. And pressure testing for all the process mechanical piping, and finally preparation for the final shutdown and tie-ins. So once they do the shutdown and the tie-ins, that's it. We're into the new the new section, and we're planning on doing that for March. When we're looking at the schedule, it is noted kind of at the bottom there that the contractor's latest schedule shows they're back on the original schedule, which is great news. I think in the last report that Jeremy shared, we were behind by about a month, and they've really accelerated things now, mostly due to the fact that their civil contractor, OK Civil, they've been more readily available with more resources, and really they've been working nonstop since Christmas. We've had them on site every day, a big crew, and they've got a lot of work done, doing a lot of multiple scopes rather than doing it sequentially. And finally, the major procurement items. We had talked about the fiberglass top covers. Typically, these things are ordered and there's given a date, and sometimes it gets pushed. Regularly, it gets pushed. Like, oh, it gets held up in shipping or that sort of thing. Everything's arrived on time, if not earlier, and it's all on site or ready to go. And there is the potential to accelerate even a little bit more if the electrical contractor can kind of complete their works ahead of schedule, and they're looking to be doing that as well. So the budget spent to date is 39%. Forecasting a budget spend of 100%, we are below the contingency at this point. There are some optionally scoped items that we are looking to do, and there are certain things as we go through that we see that could use improvements as well, just like small paving jobs, or maybe we have to just change the way that the piping is within the actual facility as well. The only other thing to note is, as noted, OK Civil has been doing a lot of work with that. Our contract administrator, which is a fellow out of AECom, the consultant, they've actually been working out of our office at the wastewater treatment plant. We've just given them a little desk there to work there. They don't work on our stuff all the time, but they are there readily available if there are any questions. Because a lot of the stuff for the civil works, they've required quick answers, and it's so much easier if you can just walk out the door rather than try and schedule a time a couple days later. Yeah, so I think that's about it, if there's any questions.
Okay, well, it's good that they've been able to catch up. I guess having good weather for the last 2 months has helped probably as well, not having snow. Council, do you have any questions about the primary clarifier? No? Okay, thank you for the update. All right, so that wraps up our the capital projects update. So we'll move on to the strategic priority update, 9.4. Go ahead, CAO.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Happy to speak to this. Probably a brief item, just indicate that Council has had published priorities for a very long time. This group of priorities has been for this Council's mandate from 2022 to 2026. It's a published document. We report on it with a rhythm of about every quarter. And most recently, last meeting on the 20th of January, Council had a discussion in Committee of the Whole where we received kind of an annual update on where we're at, and it's revealed Council has done extremely well in accomplishing really probably already about 90% of the stated published priorities, and on track to probably get to 100% of all those priorities and promises that were made to the people of Summerland for this cycle. And because of that, there's a desire on Council's part to start to put in new priorities that should be tracked, and some prospective dates. And knowing, as we've learned along the way and seeing what the future should look like, that also hands off some work and some thinking to future council as they come in the fall of 2026. And so just, you know, you have a red line version. I won't go through it in detail given the time, but I will just highlight a couple things. For example, the fire department master plan, which has been accelerated now for council from 2027 to start in 2026. And the liquid waste management plan is something that's of import as well that we are already starting work on and should be tracked. Continued work in land acquisition and disposition, and also the ALR infrastructure sustainability. That's really the good work in terms of advocacy the council has been doing with the provincial government to try and encourage the province to invest in a better way in ALR infrastructure. And just trying to capture the work and effort in that regard. But there's many more, and that's all I'll put forward. There is a motion that we've put into the report as well, and that's to approve the attached updated priorities, and that, of course, this document be placed on the district website for public awareness.
The CAO, just a note about the fire department master plan. We moved that up to this year. Is that right? Okay, it says 2027 for start.
It's dependent on grant funding, which we don't have yet, but we're already turning our mind to that project regardless, yeah.
Okay, thank you for that. Council, do you have any questions? Oh, Mayor Holmes, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry I wasn't here for the workshop when we went through all this. Just a question under the bylaw and policy review. What is a community arts policy?
Yeah, I can. So this has been in the discussion of council before, looking at our director of community services, who I believe has already been doing a little bit of work in this regard. Do you want to speak to that, Mrs. Mullen?
Through the chair to Mayor Holmes, this is the council directed request to do an art policy. I think that came about a year and a half ago when we were looking at strategic priorities, and that request came through to me. So I've taken that on, and we'll be coming to council to look at how we manage public art in the District of Summerland. We do not currently have a policy, so it'll be in draft form. I'm already working with the Arts Council to put together a draft for your consideration, and then it will be updated through the summer and finalized in the fall.
Okay, that's, I just suggest we change the wording in here because community arts is not the same thing as public art, singular. So it could be confusing. We're not setting policies for all the arts in the community. We're setting a policy for the establishment of public art. So if we just clarify that, I think that would be helpful.
That's a good suggestion. Is that relatively easy to do? Just change wording? Yeah, okay. As amended? Okay. Any other comments, Mayor Holmes?
Yeah, I was just, you know, I'd like to see somewhere in there. One thing, you know, we have talked about in the past is is working with the school district to improve public use of center stage theater. And I'd also like to see us somehow facilitate increased use of the Riga Center for the purposes of arts and culture. And you know, this doesn't have to be, you know, an additional workload. This can be further down the road, but I think, you know, we've got this great new arts center there, and it's not being used to its maximum amount. And there's a number of things that can be done without large cost to improve the performance space on the top floor there to make it more attractive for performing artists. I would like to, you know, just see generally how we can make our two, you know, major facilities for the performing arts to be actually better used, because, you know, right now they're not very well used.
That's a good suggestion. So you're thinking about that to be added this year? Or just to be
No,
added?
I don't think we have the capacity to do it this year, but I would just like to see it in the strategic plan moving forward, whether that's, 27 or, whenever, 28, I don't know. I don't really know, our capacity that well moving forward, but, if it's not on there, then it's not going to be done, right?
Yeah, no, it's a good suggestion. Go ahead, Councillor Peak.
I agree with the mayor's suggestion because we already have the spaces and the opportunity to, like I know we've talked about lighting and the Riga Fest upstairs. There's ways of enhancing that area to make better use of it. And we had difficulty engaging about how we could change or make more available the center stage. And I think we need to continue that discussion. And it obviously is not going to be this year, but we need to have it in there so it's strategically, we know we want to do it.
CAO, do you know if we have a meeting with the school board at all? Sometimes we have a council to school board meeting, because that could be something that we could just start talking about when it comes to the center stage, just have a discussion about ways that we could improve it.
Thank you for the question. I have an upcoming meeting with the superintendent. And at that meeting, we were going to talk about prospective dates for that council and board meeting, because council has raised that. In the past, it's been a challenge on their end with scheduling, but I think it's a great topic for that discussion to start at that level. But we could certainly add it here as well if you want to track that item in the strategic priorities.
Sure. Okay, Mayor Holmes, where would you like to add that?
Well, it would be under quality of life, I guess. Quite a lot in there already, but where would it be? To enhance our quality of life, I would just something like let me see, some sort of wording like facility increased use of the Riga Center and Center Stage Theater for a better performance space or something along those lines.
Okay, Kendra, can we add that in? Yeah, okay. Okay, good suggestion.
Thanks.
We'll add that in. Anything else that you see, Mayor Holmes, that you'd like to add, or a council?
No, I think it looks really good. I think you guys did a good job there in adding the important things like the liquid waste management plan for sure. It's really important that that's in there, and the fire review and all that. All that's good stuff. It's something that we've been discussing a lot over the years, and so it should be on our strategic priorities.
Okay, over to Councillor Van Elfen and then Councillor Barr.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Through our CEO review of user rates, agricultural water rates. Is this to look at bona fide farmers versus non-bona fide farmers and rate differentials in that area? Or is this just a increase on ag water rates across the board? What are we looking at?
Yeah, thank you for the question. And through the Deputy Mayor, it was that first element that you mentioned, Councillor, with contemplating rate structures as it relates to status versus non-status farms that have agricultural water.
I appreciate the clarification. Thank you.
I saw that we recently didn't get funding for the liquid waste management plan. I don't remember how it was budgeted for originally, where the funding for that project was going to come from. Is it going to result in any kind of a delay on that project?
Through the chair, we were denied from the CHIF grant, the Canadian Housing Infrastructure Fund, but we are still in place for the Strategic Priorities Fund, the SPF. So we're waiting to hear back from them, which actually is the one that we were hoping for because that's 100% funding. So whether or not it'll delay it, it is grant dependent, but we should hear back hopefully within the next couple months. We'll be able to come back to council at that point and let you know.
So if we don't get that funding, we'll have to think about things.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, okay, unpleasant thought. The other question I have here was the Destination Summerland project for the rail car. Have we got any kind of a update on that or anything? Because I'm going to ask every meeting.
Through the deputy mayor, I'll be talking a little bit more about that in the report that is item 9.7 with respect to tourism capital project reserve allocation and recent discussion I've had with them on that item.
Oh, yeah, see, I forgot it was later in the agenda, was maybe why it was on my mind. I had also have a suggestion. If you said you're winding down and looking for next year's projects, I'll just put it out there as a possibility, not saying something we should do, but it came up this morning with the pre-approved plans. And if staff think that that's a good idea, then as Councillor Patton mentioned, the Kelowna has pre-approved building plans. I don't know if it's something that should be considered, but if staff thinks it would be a good idea for Summerland, then maybe it could go on next year's, when we do our next strategic planning.
Okay. Any further comments on this? Just looking for the resolution here. So it would be as amended, is that correct? Okay. Okay, you want to bring that forward? Councillor Betts, Councillor Barkwell. Okay, seeing no further discussion then, I will call the question. All in favor? Great, thank you. And so CAO, that gets updated and then uploaded to the website? Perfect, okay. Did we want to take a break now or do we want to do 9.5? 9.5, okay. So 2026, 2030 financial plan bylaw, we'll do this and then we'll take a quick break after. So this is over to Dave.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. So over the past 4 months, the district has been actively involved in budget discussions. October and November focused on our 3 utilities, and it included an open house that was held on November 13th, which to date has received 40 views on our YouTube channel. The utility increases are 5.73% in sewer, 6.77% in water, and 6.22% in the electric utility. Those were approved and became effective on January 1st of this year. Now these increases provide for additional asset management contributions in the water and sewer utilities. They cover increased operating costs, which include a 4.78% increase in the wholesale power that we purchase from Fortis. And they also include a small 0.33% water rate increase to cover the new debt payments associated with the publicly approved borrowing for the water main replacements on Victoria Road. December and January's focus shifted to the general fund, which was presented to 110 members of the public at our open house on January 14th, which we had at the Arena Banquet Room. And significant work did go into getting that proposed tax rate increase down from where we started, which was 14.29%, down to today's 6.36. This increase, primarily 5.52%, is for increased operational costs, and 0.84% to cover new debt payments for the Wharton and Victoria Road borrowings. I believe to this date, we've received 11 written submissions, which have been attached to the council agenda package, and 85 people have viewed the presentation on our YouTube channel. So the overall financial impact to a residential home that's assessed at $862,523 is $368 annually, or $30.67 monthly. The council report provides the breakdown, but the breakdown is for property taxes, that's $136 increase. For garbage, $16. Water is $72. Sewer is $27. and electric is $117. So in total, again, $368. So with the public engagement component now complete, the district's 2026 to 2030 financial plan bylaw is now ready to be considered for first 3 readings. That concludes my report.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Van Alphen.
I'll move staff recommendation.
Seconded by Councillor Patton. Okay, any discussion? Go ahead, Councillor Beck.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I would just like to note that I appreciate the correspondence that we received from our citizens and, challenging council and District of Summerland staff about why the increases are what they are, which is, of course, it's always a really hard thing to increase costs. It's for every one of us. We all live in Summerland, and that's going up for each one of us around the table as well, and that's a challenge we all face. I would just like to say that, that staff and council took the process very seriously and dug really deep into the corporation's operations, into our capital budgets, and that we put the time and effort into the process and into coming up with a solution for our community. And I think that that's really important, and that council can stand by that decision making even when it's hard. I recognize that these costs have gone up year over year for 4 years, and that's really challenging to our residents, for my household as well. But the increased pressures of just the global economy don't escape us here in Summerland. And that's kind of the realities we face. And if we are going to significantly change the quality of services that Summerlanders enjoy, I think that that's an election question rather than gutting our operational budgets or capital budgets before that time. So I can stand behind this budget, and those are my thoughts.
I read every single letter that came in from the public, as well as listened to all the feedback at the open house. And like Councillor Betts said, we hear it all, and we, it goes into our thinking when we're debating the budget. I just have a question. We had one person say that we have the highest tax rate in the province. Dave, can you clarify that?
So from a clarification perspective, I'm not sure where this individual was getting their data from. What they were looking at in terms of taxation, they could have been including parcel, they could have been looking at all kinds of different factors. So without actually knowing the full scope of what the individual was speaking to, I can't say that I would agree with that statement, just based on some of the calculations that were provided to council at our open house. They were clearly showed that we were not the highest, even in our region. So again, I don't know where that comment came from.
Okay, no, I just wanted to clarify, because I think that's one thing that we try to do as a council is we look around and see where other people are, like where similar communities of our size, because we really want to be, we pay attention to what's going on, and we don't want to be too high or too low. And so when I see those kind of comments, I just wonder, where they come from, because from our perspective, we work really hard to try to keep it within range. And at our budget presentation, we also had a screen that showed where we sit compared to other communities in the valley. And what I took from that screen is that we're in the middle. So I just wanted to know if there was something that I was missing, or but that's okay. I just wanted to clear that up. Because like I said, I do read all the comments and I take them seriously. So yeah, just wanted to see about that. I do see that Mayor Holmes has a question.
No question, just a comment. Yeah, people are entitled to their opinions, but they're not necessarily entitled to their facts, as they say. I really appreciate that, how well attended the open house was, and that I appreciate people. They want to know that we're being responsible. And I think most people have gone away after hearing the facts and hearing what we're dealing with, that that we're running a pretty tight ship already, and we're doing a pretty good job. And nobody likes tax increases, and it's difficult. The last 3 years have been difficult budgets, but as Councillor Betts said, if we want a 0% tax increase, what service reductions are we gonna have? What are we gonna cut out? What are we gonna shut down? That's a much larger discussion for the community. And my feeling is that the community, it doesn't necessarily it doesn't really have the appetite to consider these major cuts, which would really change the whole fabric of our community if we have to shut down our rec center or something like that. That's what we're talking about here. If we want to have a zero tax increase, we're going to change. We're talking about changing Summerland as we know it and love it right now, and that's not what we were elected to do. So it's an election year. It'll be interesting, but I think we've done a really good job, and thanks to everybody, all staff members and council and everybody who's been involved in this. And again, thanks to the public who've come out to learn and to understand, and the number of views on the YouTube, that's been great. And the more information we can get out there about what's gone behind our decisions, the better, I think. And so we'll just keep doing that. Thanks.
Councillor Barkwell?
Yeah, since everybody's making comments here on the budget, I'd say I have to think that what Mayor Holmes said was well said. If we didn't do what we have had to do, as painful as it is, and it's painful for us because we know nobody likes tax increases, it'd be a completely different community. And I think that the people are here because they've liked Summerland, they like the direction we're at, and you would change it altogether if we didn't maintain that sort of minimum standard that we have and the cost that goes with it.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to jump on this wagon. I don't. The amount of trust and that our ratepayers and our taxpayers have given us in allowing us to move forward with what we've done in Summerland. And when you take a look at the Globe and Mail Best Cities list, where Summerland has jumped up 170 places, is true testament to the trust that's been bestowed upon us. But I do want to say that even though it is an election year, I think that we have to be very cognizant that we have asked a ton from our citizens. And I think that we have to be very careful in how much more we ask of them, because I think that's starting to run a little bit thin. So anyways, they've given us great trust, and I truly appreciate what they've done. And but I think that we have to be very, very cognizant on as we move forward on what we're going to be asking them, especially for the next little bit here. Thanks.
Councillor Peak.
Thank you very kindly. I have to agree with the remarks that are being made around this table, that we know that to keep the kind of community we have and to maintain the things that are vital to be able to continue with the community, that is all the underground works, all the sewage plant, the water plant, all the mainstay of actually having a community is costly. But I do believe that we have to be considerate of the fact that we know that the economy is difficult for our people that live here as well. So while we know that we need to invest money, and I don't think you're ever going to get that you should have a 0% increase, because this is a business that we run on behalf of the people. So we have to do a good job of looking after all the parts. And I hope that people see that the work that has been done over 12 years, 8 years, the last 4 years, is good for the community. Whoever sits at this table have difficult decisions to make, but we are lucky to have good staff. We have a beautiful community, and I think as long as we stay on an even track and be aware of the balances that are involved, then I think that this community will work forward well.
Councillor Van Elfen.
Might as well jump on the bandwagon. I agree with everything that's been said. We're so fortunate here in Summerland. I mean, I know we have some aging infrastructure as our aquatic center, arena, other amenities that we have in our community, but you know what? We have them. There's a lot of communities that don't have them and are paying more taxes than we are. So we're really, really fortunate here in Summerland. I don't know how to phrase this. It pains me to compliment our director of finance, but to encourage us, to constantly encourage us to keep putting money into asset management. You know, we keep dumping more and more money into asset management, probably not enough, but at least we're doing it. The tax increase looks like, oh man, it's all here, it's 1 year, it hurts, but we're putting money aside also for other projects that are going to come down the pipe, and we know they're going to come. So I think we've done a good job, you know, and I appreciate senior staff guiding us along this path. We sit at this table thinking it's all us and our intelligence, but a lot of it is senior staff directing us. This is or encouraging us or directing us, but I appreciate that. You know, you guys are the ones that are, you know, on the front line, you know the numbers, and we're the ones that have to sell it out in the public. I had a phone call yesterday from a gentleman that his comments were how beautiful Wharton Street looked. I remember a call from the same guy about 1.5 years ago, and that wasn't the gist of that conversation. The only recommendation he made was, sure, it'd be nice when those poles are gone. I said, yeah, that's coming. You know, so I think once people see these projects completed, you know, we're coming along. We've come a long way over the past 4 years with projects and paving and different things we've done, and I'm proud of council. Thank you.
I just have one quick tiny comment. So I read all of the feedback, and most of it was pretty generic, just, you know, either, you know, wanting tax decreases or whatever, which is fair. That's usually the kind of comments that we get. We don't usually get comments that say, this is great, I'm happy to pay 6% more. But anyway, one specific comment that I did get was from somebody who asked if we would be able to keep the recreation hours in the summer the same, which I think was a $6,000 savings for the summer. I don't know if that's possible. I don't know if that makes a big difference. I just said that I would pass along her comment. That's what it was. She just said she was, you know, okay with everything, but the one specific thing was she wanted to know if we could keep. So I don't know if that number rings a bell to you, $6,000 to. Is okay. It's a very small change. I just, I don't know how council feels about that, or if you just want to leave everything as is. Go ahead, Councillor Barkwell.
I think we should stay the way it is, but I also think that's a very good example of what we'd be getting 50 times over if we had gone with the 2% budget increase or some other thing. If we didn't do the current increases that we have done, boy, we'd hear about it.
Go ahead, Councillor Betts.
Thank you. Just in response to your suggestion, I think for this year, for me, I'm willing to kind of see how that goes. I think it was brought up because the aquatic department felt that the pool wasn't being used a lot at that time frame, but that, you know, we had looked at closing the aquatic center for a longer period of time during the summer, and we compromised by keeping it open because of the potential for forest fires and users needing a place to be indoors for recreation in the summer, but while shortening the hours. So I would like to stick with it for this year and see if there's any feedback where we can shift operations back longer hours for 2027 if it comes up.
Okay, Lori, maybe staff could just notice this summer if there are requests or, if people are really missing that extra hour and a half or hour that we cut out just for the summer. I think it's at nighttime that we close a bit earlier. If you're getting feedback, let us know so we can tweak it for next year. Okay, any further comments at all from council? Did we have a mover? Yes, and we had a seconder. Okay, so seeing no other comments or questions, I'll call the question then. All in favor? Great, that carries unanimously. Thank you. Okay, we will take a break now. How about 10 minutes? So back at 3:33.
Deputy Mayor, she wants a tight meeting.
Okay, everybody ready?
We're days away.
We're good to go? So back at 9.7, which is Tourism Capital Project Reserve Allocation Consideration. And that's over to you, Graham.
Yes, it is. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. We're all here. Okay. So I'll be happy to speak to this item. Make sure this thing works. There we are. Have some notes I'll be referring to as well. So back when the visitor center sold on Highway 97, you recall we owned the land as the district, and then the chamber owned the building. Council made a decision that whatever came in terms of the land value after all of our fees and everything were paid for, that would go into a special account for tourism capital purposes. And then during the grant and aid process, the Kettle Valley Railway Association came through and they asked for some of that money. And so council said, well, let's have a conversation to see how we want to allocate these dollars. And so I will outline now 4 options that have come up in the past in terms of ways we can utilize this money. And then I have a recommendation as well, which is reflected in the motion, how, we might want to divvy that up. Kettle Valley Railway. So the KVR, as it's also known, is a key, the trestle is a key tourism asset in the district. And the railway itself supports over, this year, 35,000 riders. The trestle is also, of course, an iconic feature on that line. And although the structure is itself owned by the province, it's maintained by the KVR Society under lease. And so they are responsible for ensuring that it is safe for public use. In addition to the train purposes, anyone who's been out there knows that you'll see a lot of the public also using that trestle to traverse the canyon. And it's a regular stopping point to take pictures. So scenic view of the Summerland area. The KVR has indicated that they'd like to repair the access walkway and its underlying infrastructure. And it's a priority for them, but the project will likely far exceed their ability to pay in terms of their own resources. And they'll need to conduct that work through a combination of support from various partners, including their own savings. This is the structure here, the trestle, and so I think what's being referred to is the public walkways on both sides of that and perhaps areas leading up to it. They are working with Rotary as we speak to fundraise for the project and will be applying for grants once more detailed project costing is determined, and they have requested $250,000 from the district, and more information can be obtained by referring to their grant and aid application, which I have attached in the package with the report. Another thing that's come up in previous discussions is the antiquated highway signage at the key, or also known as a kiosk at the Trout Creek pullout. Signage at Highway 97 pullout is in very poor condition, as you can see from these pictures, which were just taken recently. It was originally built and owned by the Chamber of Commerce to provide wayfinding services and local business highlights for the traveling public. That's a map actually on the left. Tourists still sometimes consult this kind of signage, but with the emergence, of course, of smartphones, with free apps for directional services, trip reviews, and easy to access social media and websites, the use of basic static signage is waning in popularity. I did meet with and consult the Destination Summerland group about the signage. They're a subsidiary of the Chamber, as you know. And they agree that the signs have surpassed their useful life and should be deconstructed. However, they do not have the funds at this time to remove that signage, but they have indicated that they do support the district in removing the signage if we're able to conduct that work and pay for it. In their view, it's undesirable to have the first impression of Summerland being that of the current antiquated kiosk. We've done some estimates, and we believe the disposal of the structure, including tipping fees, et cetera, staff time, including contingency, would be around $25,000. Repositioning of the Killarney train car. So originally acquired by the Canadian Pacific Railway in 1918, the Killarney is a fully functional business train car, and it's being stored presently at the Ogden Yard in Calgary. Destination Summerland has raised the concept of obtaining the car for use as a visitor center in Summerland. Staff have worked with the organization at council's direction to consider various locations with the vacant lot west of the substation on Prairie Valley Road, also affectionately known as the former Sadie site, as being a feasible option. Exploratory discussions between Canadian Pacific and Destination Summerland have revealed the general willingness for CP to donate the car. However, CP has indicated a preference for it to be attached to the KVR steam railway train and to remain in active service. It's less clear if they are willing to see the car used for stationary tourism purposes in case it falls into disrepair and is abandoned should its usefulness as a visitor center change over time. Whether it's used as a visitor center or relocated to support the KVR line, repositioning of the car would require readying the device for movement, then transfer via rail to the nearest location, perhaps Kamloops. And from there, the car would be transported by truck actually into the community. Afterwards, it would be craned into place. If used for a visitor center, further site development and servicing would also be required. And if it's placed in active duty on the rails, other improvements or updates might be required. The district, Destination Summerland, and KVR would need to make a formal request and submit a proposal, possibly with a request for some kind of in-kind support from CP to assist with its relocation. There are lots of variables, as you can imagine here, depending on how this unfolds, but it is anticipated that full costs would be in the neighborhood of $150,000 to $200,000 to bring the car into the community and place it. A last idea that has come up is the updating of digital communication signage on Highway 97. There's a large digital signboard at each end of the community as the highway enters the district, originally installed in 2013 at a cost of just around $84,000. The sign was put in place on each end because of consultation which involved the downtown business owners. And the signs continue to be used for district communications, but also to raise awareness about key community events and safety information. Although they are older technology, the community does read the signs. And we know this because residents write in or call to get more information based on what they see on the signs. And they absolutely quickly report inaccurate information or outdated information on the signs when that is present. The original impetus for the signs was to reduce sign pollution by having the option to change the information on the signs at the discretion of the district. With the recent removal of the visitor center now from Highway 97, the only remaining direct communication opportunity with motorists are these signs. Recently, the devices have encountered frequent breakdowns, which we're seeing about once a month, and a decision now needs to be made on their future. Several support letters have been received from Destination Summerland, the Rotary, and the Chamber of Commerce. We can replace the signs with brighter and more functional message boards. This would essentially be replacing the lit portion of the signs with a bright high-resolution screen akin to a very large computer screen. The new technology is robust and easy to update and would allow both pictures and animation to appear on the screen. What does that mean? Well, for example, the sign could read, come visit our charming downtown, and then after that, a picture of the actual downtown Main Street could be in color put on the screen, so people know what our downtown looks like. Or it could read, check out our fireworks at the Festival of Lights with the background animation playing the video of fireworks behind the lettering. The updating of both screens, including contingency and 5-year warranty on parts, as well as replacement parts, and the disposal of the old screens is about $65,000. With that, I have a resolution here, which I'll describe ever so briefly. We could allocate $150,000 towards the Kettle Valley Railway Society for the purpose of supporting trestle repairs, $25,000 to the general capital budget to support the deconstruction of the wayfinding signage at Shoal Creek Pullout. We could hold $100,000 for the eventual repositioning of the Killarney rail car should that occur. And we could allocate $65,000 to modernize the digital information signage along Highway 97. All that could be done within the budget account that is currently allocated for these dollars. And the last thing is here, we would, if we do desire to get the show going with the Killarney rail car, there's a recommendation here for mayor's signature on a letter that would formally start that process, asking that the Killarney rail car be dedicated to the community and asking for CPR for support for that purpose. That'll take any questions.
Thank you for that presentation. Council. Go ahead, Councillor Van Elfen.
$25,000 to remove that? Like, I'm sorry, I just find it astronomical. It looks like a dump truck load to me in a backhoe. A couple of hours and one trip to the dump and Bob's your uncle. But I just find that a big number, sorry.
Yeah, no problem. And I actually got that estimate from Public Works, so we'll just maybe get our deputy CAO to speak to that.
Thanks, Graham. Through the chair to our councillor. Yeah, that's the deconstruction of that component of it. It actually has a bunch of electrical works inside of it that much of the electrical still has to be used. So we'd have to put a new kiosk in for the septic dump site. So there is a little bit of work that actually has to happen outside of just decommissioning of this, including all the concrete in the area. So it is, you know, 1 or 2 truckloads to truck the main components away, but we have to deal with what's inside.
Thank you for that clarification.
CAO, do you know if we get, or no, the district or Destination Summerland, do they get any feedback from the public on the sign? Like, is anybody using it? I mean, it's out of date, but do we get any comments on it? I'm just wondering if it would be worthwhile to keep it and refurbish it at a lower cost.
It's a great question. Destination Summerland has indicated that people have really moved away from the static signage and don't think of that as an area where they would consult for their travel plans, because oftentimes things change quickly, hours of businesses, locations of business, numbers that they need to call. So they say people, it's almost become sort of invisible. The one exception is these 24-hour digital kiosks that have come up in the past where you can actually access the internet, make a reservation, this sort of idea. And Destination Summerland has brought that up before, but they're seeking grant funding to see if that could be installed in these locations.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Holmes?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I think, well, yeah, definitely people have moved away from static signage, but I think people have moved away from digital signage, and I don't think we need that thing on the highway at all, to be honest. But that's not, I just wanted to ask a question about the Killarney train car. And like, do we even know if it's suitable for a visitor center? And you know, that's intended to be the offices for the Destination Summerland, and were they able to work there year round? And like, how's it winterized and all that kind of stuff? Has any of that been looked into?
Yes, as a matter of fact, and we actually have a board member of the KVR with us today who may have comments as well. But These conversations have been had. In fact, Sally Pierce, who now is with Destination Summerland, used to work with CP, has great knowledge of their network, as well as this particular car and others, and has confirmed that until quite recently, actually, it was maintained to be in service. It does have the capability to be used year-round. It has a boardroom type facility currently in its setup. We could have office meetings or possible rentals if people wanted to use that, and washroom facilities and heating facilities. So what if it was placed as a visitor center, there'd need to be services that would be connected to it. But once those services were connected, it would essentially function just as well as any indoor office space, according to her.
Oh, okay. Well, that sounds good.
Go ahead, Councillor Barkle.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Could we, when we come to vote on these proposals, can we vote on them individually so that maybe amendments can be made to specific amounts, or you can turn down one but support another? Yeah, thank you. And I echo Mayor Holmes' comment. I think the $65,000 for the digital information signage could be spent better some other way. So people see it, but and they might comment if you spelled something wrong on it, but the value just isn't there for me. And so if this is separated out, I think I'd vote against that one. The other ones, I can support. And also, I was wondering, reading about the doubt CP has or uncertainty, or can it be presented to them as a partnership? We're paying for it. The KVR takes ownership of it. The tourism people rent it for $1 a year or something like that, and satisfy all of their concerns through some sort of a joint agreement that it's, the funding is there to look after it, move it, maybe some renovation, and then ownership by the KVR, if that's who they prefer.
Great question and good thoughts there through the Deputy Mayor. Yeah, I think we would. In the first instance, I think the letter would express an interest and request further discussions. And I think those further discussions would lead to some form of stewardship agreement. So, so they can rest assured that it's not going to become sort of like the ugly train caboose you see in every second community along the highway. Like, this is going to be maintained as a proper functioning flagship and iconic feature of CP's proud history that would just exist in Summerland, given our connection to the rail as well.
I don't know if this can be put into the agreement, but now that the tourism destination Summerland has source of regular funds, a certain portion of those funds are allocated for maintenance. It's going to need a coat of paint now and then. Who knows how much these things are going to cost, but there is money there for it to be maintained in pristine condition, because its real value is maintaining its authenticity and as a presentable look item.
To keep on the car, the CPR car, when you look at stewardship too, I think that the possibility to state that the ownership would remain with the KVR, and that if it was ever decommissioned as the tourism booth or office, that it would then go as an active train car to the KVR, because I think it's wonderful, and I'm sure that they could do rentals with it as well.
Councillor Betts?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm just going to speak to a couple different ones. First, I have a question. Perhaps Councillor Patton might have the answer regarding the trestle at Trout Creek and their proposed $250,000 for maintenance there. I know we're talking about $150,000 in this option as it stands, but can you actually just illuminate a little bit more about what repairs are needed? I'm out there all the time. I walk across it and it doesn't, like, sure, there's a couple metal plates, but it doesn't seem like you're going to fall through it. So can you tell me a little bit about it?
Yeah, so the repair to the trestle is actually just over $450,000. Those ties that you're talking about are rotting out underneath, and it is the KVR that's put those metal plates on top. And to replace those, there's 900 of those ties there that have to get replaced for the walkways. So what KVR is looking at is that is actually the walkways was put in by the province as part of the Trans-Canada Trail. In reality, the KVR doesn't need the walkways. They just need the rail bed for the train. But since the lease from the province is to maintain, that is part of it. So that's where the fundraising is coming with Rotary, probably Trails of the Okanagan, the province, the district. So that's where that fundraising is coming from. So it's it's going to be a big repair.
Do you know what the timeline is for the build? Obviously, they know that that's a large sum of money. So is this kind of a 3 to 5 year plan to gain the capital?
This year. My understanding is they would, when the train season starts to slow down in the fall, is when they would be bringing in the contractor to begin work.
Okay, thank you so much for answering those questions. Can I keep going with my other question? Yeah. Okay, so yeah, I'm just looking at the Trout Creek pullout, the signage one about that it needs to go, and unfortunately there's more costs affiliated with that than foreseen, but I think it is not doing anybody any favors. It's not servicing the businesses in our community for residents to come up or visitors to come and look at that and be thinking that those would even be open. Beyond, yeah, I can get behind the Killarney car, it makes sense as capital expenditure. And then, but finally, the $65,000 for the digital information signage along the highway, I actually think those are really quite useful. I know as, for me personally, when I'm in and out on the highway, I look at them. And especially when there's major events happening, like Action Fest is downtown. So there's kind of fun events, there's light up, you're directing people downtown. When there's emergencies happening, those screens are kind of directing residents towards Voyant Alert, making sure they're signed up, or even I'm sure that if we had an evacuation order, those kinds of things would be, like in the summertime for wildfires, those would likely be communicated on those screens. And I think that they could be of use in our community. So because it's an upgrade to what the previous one was, which looked like a DOS computer from 1987. Oh, not to date myself, playing Oregon Highway or whatever it was called then, Oregon Trail, Oregon Highway, just a little before. Anyway, I do actually support continuing that and maintaining it. I think it's an effective communication tool. Those are my thoughts.
Go ahead, and then sorry, I had Councillor Barkwell next, and then I'll go there, and then I think we can we'll just go one through, like, one each, okay? And then we can move a bit quicker. Go ahead, Councillor
I was
Barkwell.
wondering about the KVR repair, like, is it because, could a lot of money be saved if they didn't back the train out to the middle of the trestle and just stopped at the edge and let people walk out instead? Because being on that train, that was not really, couldn't see anything from inside the car anyway. And so why have a trestle that could support a rail car when it seems kind of pointless?
Richard.
Great comment. I think we have to ask the 35,000 people in 2025 that rode the train. But I think that's part of the experience is going on to a century-old train, or wooden trestle on a 100-year-old train to be able to look down the creek and get that experience. So, yeah, if you want to have the train stop before the trestle and not have that experience, we have to remember when they are on the train on the trestle, people don't get off on the trestle. the train pulls off the trestle, unloads the train, and then the people actually walk on the trestle. So it's, you know, yeah, Councillor Barkle, I'm not sure if, you know, that would be a great survey to run for see how many people like that trestle.
Well, as I was saying, I was really disappointed sitting in the train, what you could see there anyway. But, okay, so go by one.
Okay, Councillor Van Elfen?
Thank you. If I may, just through to Councillor Patton, because he's the liaison. So the picture, the fencing would be part of that? There's no fencing there now, correct?
Yes.
Yes, sir? Okay, I apologize. And then back to the highway sign. I agree with Councillor Betts on this one. You know, I'm looking at this sign directing people to our Sunday market. If we had an updated screen, I think it'd be a very useful tool to direct people to our downtown core. Like, oh, stop off, you know, pull into town. We have a Four Seasons bathroom, you know, like there's all sorts of ways to promote our downtown core. We spent $84,000 in 2013. I think we got some pretty good value out of these signs. And for $65,000 to upgrade, I don't think it's a massive amount of money looking at how much mileage we've gotten out of these signs. And the whole idea was, you know, like we're like so many other communities where people just blow by and go, oh, that was Summerland. You know, we need to kind of try to drag them off that highway and get them down to our downtown core and see what we have to offer. And I think it's good money to be spent, personally. My opinion. Thank you. And if somebody has a great idea where we could put the 65,000 to do the same job that's doing, I'd like to hear it.
Okay, how about we go through these now then, one by one? We've already had quite a bit of discussion, but would somebody like to bring forward the first project, $150,000 towards the Kettle Valley Railway Society?
I'll bring it forward.
Okay, Councillor Patton, Councillor Peak. Any further discussion on this? Go ahead.
I know we don't discuss it here, but when Doug's been as the liaison and when I was, we really want to do something with the PIB. There's an opportunity there for that train to go further and to be tourism in terms of bringing in the PIB and their culture. I mean, there are opportunities as well, but I certainly support the 150,000.
Good. Okay. Seeing no further comments, then I'll call the question on this first one. Great. Mayor Holmes, I think you're in favor. Okay. So that one carries unanimously. Okay. The next one, allocate $25,000 to the general capital budget to support the deconstruction of the wayfinding signage at Trout Creek Pullout. Councillor Van Elfen, Councillor Betts, any further discussion? Councillor Peak?
Councillor Van Elfen, I thought they could have a practice for the firefighters and burn it. Now that I know we have electrical in it, obviously, that's not a good thing to do.
We use it for target practice this weekend. I'm really glad to see this come down. We do our Trout Creek cleanup in that area. We always have to clean up around it, and there's often a lot of garbage, and it's so out of date. And I think a lot of the businesses on there aren't even around anymore. So I really appreciate that we are going to be removing this, and I think it cleans up that area. So yeah, okay. All in favor? Great, that one carries. Graham, is that happening this year? Yeah, okay. Next, we are on to hold $100,000 for the eventual repositioning of the Killarney rail car. Someone want to bring that forward? Councillor Betts? Councillor Patton seconding. Okay, any comments on this? No, seeing none. Okay, all in favor? Great, that carries and unopposed. And the final one, allocate $65,000 to modernize the digital information signage along Highway 97. Someone want to bring that forward? Councillor Van Elfen? Oh, yeah, I'll get to you in a sec. Councillor Pete is seconding, and go ahead, Mayor Holmes.
Yeah, just, I guess a question to the CEO. You know, when those signs were brought in 2013, like they were out of date by the time that they got there. And I imagine, I wasn't on council at the time, but I imagine they weren't really exactly what was envisioned, having these only 3 lines and this, it wasn't modern. So we're allocating 65,000 to modernize the signs, but how sure are we that they're going to really be modern, and how sure are we that they'll actually be able to visualize from the highway what they're supposed to be able to see? How do we know that they're not too small already? Are we just going to spend 65,000 to replace something that doesn't look very good for something else that doesn't look very good? And how do we know?
Thank you for the question, Mayor Holmes. And the intent is to work within the existing footprint of the existing size of sign. So it is questions we had asked. Our ID department is actually the ones that had engaged the company that provided the specifications that are in the package associated with this item in the report. And they're feeling that this would be a huge improvement that would work visually with traveling public, with a much brighter screen that I'm just looking at the specifications here as well. Designed for these graphics and logos and animation, 281 trillion colors, so these are LED lights, they're very bright. So using the expertise of our IT department and engaging a professional company that does these signs, the feeling is that this would suffice. Obviously, much bigger signs are always much better, but the risk, of course, is moving to something much bigger too quickly and a full removal of the existing structure. I think you could actually get complaints from motorists that are passing by saying it's too bright or distracting, et cetera, too. So it's finding that sweet spot, especially if using animation and pictures and that sort of thing. So that's the advice of the IT and the company that does this, that they would suffice, Mayor Holmes.
So just to follow up then, how many words will we be able to put on? Is it the same? Because, the fonts have to be a certain size. How can we, I'm just really struggling to see what the upgrade will be, except that maybe it'll be in color rather than, because the wording still has to be a certain size.
Yeah, the main restricting factor in the existing signs is those individual bulbs limit us to individual characters and only a very specific number of lines. I think it's maybe 3 lines. Kendra would know better than I would, but 3 lines. This would allow us to really change to any font we want, because it's just like a computer screen. So you might decide to use 2 or 3 screens to say what you're wanting to say at a different font, if you felt the font was a struggle. And of course, aside from lettering, which we're limited to presently, as they say, a picture says 1,000 words. This would allow us to convey pictures of the community inside the community that people otherwise might not experience. Tempting, as Councillor Van Alphen had indicated, to tempt people to go off the highway to check out our downtown or other events. And some of those pictures might not have any words, but the idea would be that they would be able to convey certain things about the community that traveling motorists would be attracted to. But in truth, we are limited to that same screen size. So that is a limiting factor, unless we tear out those whole things and just do much larger screens, which would be far more expensive.
Mayor Holmes, do you have a follow-up at all?
No, that's good, thanks.
Okay, I'll go to, I think Councillor Peak had her hand up first, and then I'll go to Councillor Barkwell.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I don't like spending good money after what might have been considered not the best by the time it got to the final design on what we've had. But I have to say that people do notice these signs, and I think there is an option to improve it if we look at a different kind of digital format. I also think that there's a lot of people that still don't realize that Summerland is actually here. We sort of look like it's sort of, they don't see what we have to offer. you see the gas stations and the fast food or whatever. I think that if we're able to, we may even want to review what's allowed to be put on the signs. Because sometimes there are some things I think that could be there that highlight the community, and they may be slightly commercially oriented, but I think there's opportunity to improve some of that as well. So I think I will vote in favor of having it and making it useful with some improvements.
Councillor Barkwell.
I'm not sure what the original cost of the signs was, but I know it wasn't 85,000. Is it after installation? It was like $110,000, and staff members told me at the time how they had to squeeze things around to make it fit that number. But the value here, I think there's nobody, 2 people a year are going to pull off the road just because they saw something on that sign. If you want to put something on it that says Action Festival, well, everybody knows when Action Festival is already. They're in it. They're participating. They know. It just doesn't have a value. The other use for the 65,000, and also, as I think Council or Mayor Holmes was alluding to, they're too small. We have a bylaw against electronic signs in the community. I think they're allowed only in the downtown area, and any sign that people want, like, I think, is it the Baptist Church has one? It's much larger. And here you are going at highway speeds up the hill, and you got this little sign, and about the most you could put in a font that's big enough to see is help or something. So the readability and the amount of and the messaging that these small signs could give you is very limited. The 65,000 is probably going to be needed to establish that rail car in its place and maybe do some renovations for it. I think we need to have a contingency fund there, and there could be other things that come up that are probably have more bang for the buck than these highway signs.
CAO, what's the lifespan on these new screens?
Thank you very much for the question, Deputy Mayor. Just looking at the specifications in the package, lifetime is 100,000 hours.
11 years is that?
11 years, I guess Dave's saying.
11.
11 years, okay.
6,000 a year?
Okay, so we had that one moved and seconded, is that right? No?
I'll move it.
Okay, so Councillor Batts is moving it, you're seconding it? Okay. Okay, I'll just make a quick comment. This is a really tough one. I didn't like the signs for a long time, but then I decided that I would make an effort to look at them to see if I'm really getting the message when I'm driving up the hill. And I do now, and I do, there is some use for them. Also, if we don't invest the money, then what are we gonna do with them? I mean, the structure of the sign's nice. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. So I think, we either take them down or we spend some money to make them better. I think people do look at them, and you are able to read what they say. And as long as, I don't know how fast you're going up the Summerland Hill. The speed limit is like 90 and then 70. So you're slowing down. So you should be able to read it. Anyhow, I mean, this is a hard one, but they're already there. And, I don't know, this is a tough one. It's a lot of money for 2 signs, but if, I'm on the fence.
Could I say
helpful.
something?
Go ahead, Mayor Holmes.
Yeah, so I know I struggle with this as well. Basically, I agree with everything Councillor Barkwell said about them. The thing is, when we talked about them before, and I'd be happy for them to be gone, but I remember when we talked about them before, the cost to demolish them, to get rid of them, would be the same as putting in these colored screens. So and as the bulbs are getting, we don't want them falling into disrepair. Having these crumbly signs with burnt out bulbs on the highway, that's not really ideal. We don't want that. Because my inclination is just do nothing, but that's we're going to have to deal with it one way or another. So really, I think what's being proposed here is probably the most cost-effective option. And so let's just, I'll support it, but with great reluctance.
Okay, Councillor Van Elfen and then Councillor Barfel.
One of the reasons I support it is, yeah, I can come from Jones Flat Road and I can read it just fine because I'm not doing booking at 110 yet. So the other problem I see, and I've seen it all summer, we've seen it in the past, and we have zero control over it, is people are attaching sandwich board signs in the meridians on the highway. Highways Department doesn't seem to want to do much about it. And without this sign, I think we'll see more of that, of these illegal signs on the highway right-of-ways, and we have no control. It's highways by law. They're the ones that are supposed to control this. And at least with the digital signs, we have the option to advertise. You know, one thing is like the Sunday farmers market and different activities that are happening in our community. So I'll support it.
I think that Deputy Chair, you had a really good question about how long this lasts. And, you know, to spend $6,000 a year this way, putting it that way, makes it worse for me. I don't know. I don't see the relationship between the signs in the highway right away and this, but it does raise a question in my mind. The highways people have sign rules. I wonder if moving electronic sign or things like that, whether we have to get approval if this does go ahead. And the other point was I thought that maybe money could be spent just to plaster that space over and make it look like the rest of the sign, because we do want to have a welcome to Summerland space sign.
Really, the only thing I wanted to add is just as a note, if we do go ahead with it, that there is a setting that does display dimming, just to let everybody know, because it's going to come up. If we move forward with it, somebody's going to say it's too bright. Someone's going to say it's not enough, but it can be dimmed because some of them actually are very turbo. So anyway, I think it's a good idea. And for $6,000 to try and encourage people into our downtown core, which was the advice of the Downtown Business Association, not of council. It was council decided to take the advice of the Downtown Business Association that was noted as the original reason for putting the sign there, was to get tourists off the highway and into our town core. So that's what it's for. It's capital expenditure from the sale of the tourism building. So for me, it's pretty cut and dry.
Okay, good discussion about the signs. I'll call the question now on all in favor of allocating $65,000 to our digital signs. Okay, and opposed? Councillor Barkwell is opposed. That carries. And there's one final item that staff prepare a letter for the mayor's signature, formally supporting in principle the repositioning of the Killarney rail car to the community and requesting the support of the Canadian Pacific Railway for that purpose. Can somebody bring that forward? Councillor Betts, Councillor Van Elfen, any discussion on that? All in favor? Great, okay. Thank you for that, CAO. Okay, next we are on to building bylaw amendment. And this is just an amendment to Appendix A. Kendra, is that you? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Thank you. This report is to consider an update to the seismic data in Appendix A of the building bylaw. This update will provide transparency and consistency with the data used by building services when applying the seismic requirements of the British Columbia Building Code. David Doherty is here to answer any questions.
Council, do you have any questions? Go ahead, Councillor Patton.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just one question. Since it's already in the appendix of the British Columbia Building Code, why would we want to put it in our bylaw where we are reciprocating the information in BCBC, where we could just in our bylaw that we would never have to change it again, refer to the British Columbia Building Code of whatever edition it is into?
Thank you, through the chair.
Summerland is not listed in the table of seismic data in the building code, so it provides a link to a fairly long formula to figure it out. So that's what we've done, is we've compiled that, and we just want to put that in there.
Thank you, David. So another question in regards to the Building Act, the District of Summerland cannot have anything in their bylaw that is not covered by British Columbia Building Code. So I guess my question to you is, how, if you are questioned on this seismic data from a developer or contractor, how are you going to defend this data when it is over and above what the BC Building Code it calls for? Thank you, Jen.
Thank you, through the chair. We can point them to the appendix in the building code and have them run the calculations themselves. We're not asking anything over and above what is in there. We're just simplifying the information for them.
Did you run this by the province before you're doing it?
Thank you. No, I did speak with Ken Kunka from the province, but not through through any other official channels.
Thank you. You may want to, only for the fact that anything to do with your building code has to have congruent approval by the province. So any changes that are done have to have approval. So this is something that you should have approved by the province first of all, to ensure that it's that we can do it.
Did anybody else have a comment? Go ahead, Councillor Barkwell.
So how is this seismic data used? I mean, as somebody, you know, when they go to build a house or something, how is it incorporated into their plans, or what is it?
Thank you, through the chair. Yeah, it's used for determining the braced wall bands and braced wall panels, so the seismic stability of the building. So depending on the soil and site classification, it tells you what the value is that you then go to the building code, and it'll give you a prescriptive formula for figuring out how you're bracing your walls and building the panels, or it can be figured out through other parts in the code, through engineering.
Go ahead.
So you have to have some geophysical data for the building site you have, and then incorporate that into these tables, and then use these in the plans that you submit to the building department?
Thank you, through the chair. Yes, that is correct.
Okay.
So,
and if we didn't have this, is it a requirement of the building code that this be done? Or is it just adding maybe something that we don't necessarily need to add?
no, it is required.
Councillor Patton, it does say in their report, the BC also provides a method to calculate the data for jurisdictions not listed in the table, like Summerland. So would it still need to be, you suggested before that this should be run by the province? Does it need to be if they've given, it sounds to me like they've given the okay.
Yeah, no, we can do the calculation. What I'm saying is that if we're going to put it into print and we're going to be putting it into our bylaw, that is where we need to ensure that we have the authority to do that. It's different for an engineer in some case to do his seismic calculations, and the one thing that we don't want to do is have our staff doing those seismic calculations, because it goes above and beyond the risk that we want to take, because they're not engineers to be able to do that. So when you talk about your bylaw and you talk about this data, This is for a builder, contractor, developer, engineer, architect to be able to go in, find out what your seismic data is, or your climatic data for your area, right? And if it's not there, then they do the calculation. So that's my question is we're doing that calculation for them. So do we want to take that on? And if we do want to take that on, let's just get approval from the province that we've done it in respect to how the province will accept it.
Okay, go ahead, Councillor Van Elfen.
So through to Councillor Patton, are you recommending we table this until we get provincial approval?
I would say that we should table it and get direction from the province from the ministry if we can even put this into our bylaw.
Does that work for everybody? Go ahead, Councillor Betts.
Thank you. This is over and above my expertise area.
Pay grade.
Definitely over my pay grade. Anyway, to the professionals in the room dealing with this, you both are, but is there more to the picture to help me understand Councillor Patton's perspective versus the staff recommendation? Is there a judiciousness in checking in? Do you feel like the authority is already given in the staff report? I'm just not really certain, so I'm trying to figure out if deferring this to another meeting is the best course of action, or if there's more that you'd like to say about the staff recommendation.
Thank you, through the chair. No, I mean, what we currently have in the appendix is the seismic data that was used in the 2018 version of the building code. That's since been replaced and isn't used anymore, so probably shouldn't be in there. The new data we can add, or we can seek, provincial approval to add, or we can just calculate it each time. It's not emotionally invested in it one way or the other, but those are the options that I see.
Just to take David off the hot seat, when I was with Kelowna, I changed the snow load calculations in our building bylaw, and I had to go back to the province because the province called me out on it. So I had to change it back to because we made it more restrictive than what the BC building code was. And so I'm speaking from experience, so I'm putting it out there.
Firstly, I think that deferring this is a riskless move, so no harm done, no foul, if we just get confirmation from staff that, not even sure if I entirely understand the issue, but if there's an issue, there's no harm in clearing it up. But I do have a question. What would be the difference in cost? Let's say your site class was unknown and you had to use this factor of 0.339 versus AE, which is 0.079. How much of a difference in your construction would that make?
Thank you, through the chair. I don't know cost-wise. I'm not a builder, so I've got no frame of reference for that. But the higher your number, the more solid you have to build your walls. So there's more lumber, there's more nails, more sheeting. So your costs do increase, yeah.
Okay, corporate officer, if we wanted to defer this, do we need a motion for that? Okay. Do you want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, do we have a seconder? Councillor Van Elfen? And then there's no further discussion, is that right? Okay, so we vote on it? Okay, so all in favor of deferral? Okay, Mayor Holmes is in favor as well. All right, so that's deferred until we get further clarification from the province or approval. Okay, thank you for the report. And thank you, Councillor Patton, for helping us to try to explain that. Okay. All right, next on our agenda, we have Council Procedure Bylaw Amendment, and that is over to Kendra.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. So so following the adoption of the alternative means of public notice bylaw back in the beginning of 2025, a consequential amendment is required to the council procedure bylaw to update the definition of public notice. So with that, the council procedure amendment bylaw 2026-10 has been drafted with the definition update and now can be considered for a first, second, and third time.
Go ahead, Councillor Van Alphen.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'll move the staff recommendation.
Councillor Peak is seconding. Any discussion on this? Nope, seeing none. Okay, all in favor? Great, thank you for that. Okay, and then bylaws for adoption, that's fees and charges bylaw amendment, bylaw number 2026-004. Kendra?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. So this bylaw received its first, second, and third reading at the January 20th meeting and can now be considered for adoption. And it did include amendments to Schedule A and then as well as the temporary patio, the new downtown patio fee.
Okay, everybody remembers that. Go ahead, sorry, Councillor PK, bring that forward.
I will bring it forward.
Okay. Can I have a seconder? Councillor Patton. Okay, all in favor? And this is just for adoption. Great, that carries. Thank you. And items are removed from the agenda. We had the BC Transit bus numbers removed and the number 30 route ridership numbers. Councillor Betts.
Thank you. I know we kind of got at this in an earlier business item. I did just want to note for the record that the 2025 Route 30 numbers were down 5.8% from 2024. And just that data helps us make decisions about how to manage this bus route for our community, and that it's important to note that we're hesitant to expand service, whether later in the day to Sundays, et cetera, without increased ridership. So just that management of that asset. Thank you.
Yeah, and I think the exploration of the possibility of moving the route to include Lower Town will hopefully reach some new riders and get those numbers up. So good. Okay, so we just need to bring that forward to approve that. Okay, we have a seconder, Councillor Peak. All in favor? Great, thank you. Okay, so now we need a resolution to move our meeting or to move into closed meeting. Councillor Van Alphen, Councillor Betts, and Kendra, do I have to read out the reasons again? No? Okay. Okay, all in favor? Great, so we're moving into closed.